Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 175 of Defining Duke, a shameful Xbox podcast. Man, oh man, are we feeling it today? As always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Lord Cognito. Great shirt choice this week. How are you doing?
Not good. Not good. It's been a rough week on multiple levels. But obviously gaming we're gonna discuss. Personal. I just been a bit tired. Just running around, a lot of family stuff, and then sadly, someone on my mom's side on husband passed. So it's just kind of being a support structure for the family. And usually when there's any type of crisis, I've called on and, what we need to do, let's make arrangements, that kind of energy. So I've been kind of in and out of social media because I just haven't been out of time and gaming and a lot of gaming this week. Because I just want to make sure you got to make sure Mama Cog is good. You know what I'm saying? She's the foundation.
That's
take care of her. Yeah, but slowly getting back into it and getting things settled. But we got things to talk about. It seems as I came back last night. But we summoned a good friend, man. We summoned someone cool.
We have put down the summon sign, and loading in is Brad Ellis of our show Summon Sign. Brad, how are you, sir? Good to have you here.
I'm pretty good. I more so invaded the show. I was like, yo, Maddie, get me on the show,
That's
man.
You did DM me asking to be on, which I loved. I was like, all right, I love this. This is exciting. Yeah, people love when you're on the show. We're happy to have you here. And so the way this show typically works is we have a lot of write-ins at the beginning. We go through some little tidbits of news. I like to make sure that when big news like this happens, I can shapeshift our show to really fit our needs, our desires, but also I think the audience's. So we're going to go through a single write-in, talk about what games we're playing, and then the rest of the show is going to be about the news that you're here for, which is obviously us getting into Xbox closing down for Bethesda Studios. And we'll have all of that there. To set things up, though, Taylor Lauderon writes in, "Hey, Dukes, unfortunately, this was the last straw for me as an Xbox fan. After hearing this news about the recent closure of Arkane and Tango, I'm canceling my Game Pass subscription. I'm probably going to look to sell my Series X. The Dukes are right. The evil villain era for Xbox has started, and I'm not here for it." There was a lot of Dukes were right energy about evil villain Xbox this week. So I just wanted to set the tone for how people are feeling going into this show. So you're well and aware of what to expect. Series X's and S's are being sold. Subscriptions are being canceled, but nonetheless, we're happy to have you here, and we'll continue to do this show until Xbox. I don't know if they're ever going to rebrand or something, but we'll keep doing this show as long as we can, so don't worry. But for those of you who want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/laststandmedia, where early ad-free access hits on Thursdays. Otherwise, we'll see you on Sunday for free feeds like Apple, Spotify, our audio partner. Shout out to them. You can find us on YouTube. Over at the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. Find us anywhere. Yeah, we just appreciate you listening. So, gentlemen, with that out of the way, let's talk about what games we're playing, right? Let's get the positive vibes rolling before we really just stampede over all of that. Brad, you're our guest, and so your game selection couldn't be more fantastic. Let's hear from you first.
Yeah, so I have been playing Stellar Blade also on this side. I'm almost done, just at the end, but I've talked about it enough on the other shows. However, with the tragic news yesterday, I was like, man, I got to cope somehow with the mourning, particularly of Tango Gameworks. And I was like, all right, it's time to revisit The Evil Within 2. Now, I love the Evil Within series. I've played Evil Within 1 like 5 times, I think. But 2 I've only played one time. So I was like, okay, it's time for a little revisit. Our man, John Johannes, awesome director. He directed this version or this game before Hi-Fi Rush, so I was like, it's time to go back. And man, this game holds up very nicely still. Such good atmosphere. Playing this game in a post-Alan Wake 2 world has been very interesting. It really feels like Alan Wake 2 took a lot of inspiration from this game, particularly like the interiors and how they set up the beginning of the game, how that's all laid out. It definitely reminds me of Alan Wake. And I actually saw, I believe, the director of Alan Wake 2 said they were influenced by the Evil Within games. And I'm like, oh, it all makes total sense. But yeah, if you didn't know, The Evil Within is a survival horror game originally from the mind of Shinji Mikami, the father of Resident Evil. He did the first game. The second one is John Johannes, his protege, I would say. And it's a great survival horror game. What I like about this game is it does something different in the sense that there are linear sections of the game, kind of like the first game, but there's big open world sections to this game where you're free to explore and do side quests, honestly, and get worthwhile upgrades. And I've been playing it, and it's so great because it takes place in this like town. This it looks like a Midwest town almost, kind of, but it's at night. You're creeping through. There's a bunch of zombie freaks roaming around, attacking you, but it's really great. You can go kind of anywhere you want, look for supplies. There's side quests, like I said, to get worthwhile upgrades, like a shotgun I got early on, which is great. Sniper rifle. It's really cool. And if you don't know the story of Evil Within, it's all in the mind, I would say. And it's really cool just seeing how they kind of like handle memories in this game and figuring out the narrative tissues going on. And the main character, Sebastian, I really like a lot. Unfortunately, it's not the same actors from the first game. They had like actual actors do the like couple of the main characters, but the guy's good enough to replace him. So it is what it is. But fantastic survival horror game. Got all that good stuff like The Last of Us, sneaking around, stabbing guys. Really fun. Always good. Some awesome creature design in this game. The first game also had that, but it carries over beautifully into this game. It's a fantastic game. If you're a big fan of survival, well, even if you're a fan of survival horror games, I highly recommend it. It is a wonderful game, and in my opinion, an underrated game. Because I don't think it sold very well, which is a damn shame. Because it's really good.
Yeah,
so
it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the first Evil Within. I've only also played Evil Within 2 once, but Evil Within, the first one, that's one of my favorite survival horror games.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's like Resident Evil level, but I think it's super overlooked in that conversation when we're talking about like really great survival horrors. I mean, it's number one, a game that's way chunkier than I think anyone actually knows. Like that is a almost 20-hour game. It's like very Resident Evil 4 coded in that regard. Lots of great weapons, extremely difficult at times, very much a butt clencher with like the amount of resources you have versus the enemies you're fighting. That game's awesome. I think I remember not liking the Evil Within 2 as much because I felt it borrowed heavily from The Last of Us and let go of some of those survival horror sensibilities that I thought made the first game so special. It was like too easy. You were finding ammo everywhere. I know they've added a lot of modes though since then. Didn't they add like a new camera mode?
They added first person mode.
That's what it was. Have you played in that?
A little bit. I think it's cool. It's a cool novelty to me, but I prefer playing in third person.
Is it like Red Dead Redemption in first person where it's like, we're not going to do this. Yeah. It's just an option, but we're not going to do this.
Maddie, it's funny. Your opinion of Evil Within 2 is kind of mine also the first time around. I preferred the first one, but revisiting it, I've found a new appreciation for it in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
I think the supply thing you were talking about, I'm playing on not the hardest difficulty, but one of the higher, because the hardest ones you can you only get like 7 saves or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And you can't upgrade your equipment. So I'm playing on the one below that, and supplies are limited. I'm definitely feeling it. Like when I miss a shot, it hurts big time.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try that because I think I played it when I reviewed it, probably on normal difficulty. Because I did like the stealth crawling around. I loved how open the zones were too. Yeah. I loved how there was exploration there and side quests there. I could see that game having time be kind to it. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. But yeah, I love the Evil Within, and I was really excited when they had Evil Within Easter eggs at Hi-Fi Rush. And the idea of getting the third one, I was like, dude, this is just Phil, don't be going out in these interviews and saying, yeah, it'd be great to have our own survival horror franchise one day, because that'd be some EA coded shit right there to just go out, shut down Visceral and then bring back Dead Space anyway for a single entry. Anything else on Evil Within 2, Brad?
But no, I think it's a really great game, really underrated in my opinion. Please give it a shot if you're interested in this series. But if you never played the series, you got to play one first, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the DLCs. But please check them out. They're great. They're on Game Pass, all of them. So do your duty. Game Pass subs, get in there, play it.
What did you think of the story of the first one? I remember a lot of people saying it was confusing. I'm not going to act like it was easy to track, but I thought it was kind of forward thinking and what it does. I won't spoil anything, but by the end, you're like, oh, that's what was happening the whole time. And I feel like that was a really great twist, but I don't hear anyone ever talk about that either. So I'm curious, since you liked Evil Within 1 as well, I imagine you enjoyed the story.
Yeah.
Parts of it.
I like the story a lot. I think it's really cool, unique. To me, it's like Resident Evil, Manny, where you can kind of follow a main storyline, but there's a lot to the story underneath if you really take the time to investigate stuff like notes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it. I think it's a cool approach how they handled it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I won't spoil it for anyone, but yeah, play that game. It's so good. Cog, let's go to you. You got some games on the rotation here for someone who's got some limited game time. You're getting some work done, good sir. Let's hear about it.
I brought that ally with me for a little bit. So during that process, I had fired up, since I'm in the same spirit as Brad, I had fired up Ghostwire Tokyo. You know, I know it didn't review necessarily the highest, and I know there were some performance issues, you know, initially, but its take on Tokyo and just the nighttime and different. It was such a unique title because I think for me, with the first person with hand gestures and being able to utilize different powers, and whether it be, you know, like this flame attack and then the, you know, the water attacks and things of that nature. And then the platforming on the roofs, I thought was always interesting. So it was a game that I didn't expect to really enjoy the way I did. So obviously with the news of Tango, it hit me very hard. You know, it's very emotional for me. So I wanted to play it, and I wanted to say, damn, man, you know, there was thoughts of potentially getting another one of this, you know, refined and to see where that would go. And I always highly advise if people haven't played it, because I beat it, don't sleep on the submissions, the side missions, because there's a couple of ones that really scared the hell out of me in a good way. There's one called Fear from the Children, and it takes place in this school, and there's a lot of haunted energy, there's a segment, I'm not going to spoil too much, but like you have to deal with something in such a unique way. And it's like the statue that kind of chases you, and then you turn around and you see it get closer and closer. And you're like, yo, and if it gets to you before you get to your destination, it's a wrap. So it's just, it's all these different mechanics and things. And I'm like, man, I absolutely love this game. And one thing I've always said is, I think the only game that ever really scared me, I noticed, is these Japanese mythology games. Their horror, their caricatures, Young Tai and Onis and whatever these things literally freak me out. I don't know. American horror doesn't do it for me, but Japanese horror definitely resonates. So yeah, got to pour one out for Tango, and I want people to definitely support Ghostwire Tokyo, man. That's a phenomenal game. Other than that, in the limited time, Dragon's Dogma 2, of course. So been still questing my Mystic Spear hand is getting all types of crazy powers. I got this joint now. Like, I am a problem for bosses now, because now when they come to strike me, I have this move where I teleport, I jump in the air, and I'm literally on top of them with the spear, and I'm on their back. Yep. Like, I'm handling, sometimes I had situations where my pawns were not doing what they were supposed to do, or I'm handling the situation. You know what I'm saying? So then I got the long distance with like this lightning shock ability. I got this other thing now where I got these little things, they almost like little mini spears, and I kind of send them out. The defensive bubble, the powers are really, really fun for the Mystic Spear hand. But I will say, one of the reasons why I haven't advanced the main story quest as much as I have is because there is my, you know, I call my pawn, my main pawn, so Lord Podrick. Podrick is my guy. He catches me when I fall. Master, what can I do? You know what I'm saying? I like Podrick's loyal. Only time we blew up the town last week. We're over it. I don't think he has any dragon's plague diseases. He good. But with Podrick now, he was originally archer. I made him a sorcerer. I changed his vocation. So now I did these quests. I don't know if you did it, Maddie. There's these two warring sorcerers. One is a daughter, and the other one is an older guy. They had two different complete regions of the game. You may only meet one of them at one time. So what happens is, they're telling you to find these things called grimoires, and they're very hard to find. Like they're in very specific locations. I happened to find almost all of them, and then one I admit I did look up because I was like, okay, I'm so close. Where do I get this other one? So I'm like, all right.
I've caved in this game so many times.
Full disclosure. Thank you for saying it, man, because I felt bad. I was like,
you're good.
This game doesn't tell you anything, Brad. Like it's the most vague quest line. They'll put you in front of something. There's no indicator of what to do next, or like it's brutal. Yeah. So I did look up that part. I got it. And then what happens is the daughter is trying to learn sorcery. And if you give her the books, then you get certain rewards. If you give the dad who went evil, you get certain rewards. But there's a way to get him rewards from both. So what I ended up doing is I found in a specific town, there's a forger. And I was able to forge the 4 grimoires I had, give it to the dad, get all his power, get all this great stuff. And then I did the quest for the girl. And bro, I'm going to tell you right now, the magics that I have this thing called Maelstrom and this other thing called Meteorite. I got this tornado that takes enemies in the air. Like I am a boss DPS king. Now I'm ready to go back to Bethal, handle the golems. Hey, I'm ready now. Now I'm like, okay, end game, we gonna beat this game now. Cause them dudes, I ain't gonna front. They ran roughshod on me. They had me running. That's where the pounding from the forest clip came. Because if you go to Bethal at night with them desert demons and forest situations will go down and you'll like it. So
crime rate rises at night. For sure. At
night is brutal. Don't let your ox cart get caught out of pocket in the raid. You know how it goes. So
I had an ogre ambush me and he destroyed. Dude, I was like maybe a quarter to my destination when I dozed off and woke up. This man destroyed my whole cart. I never had it happen before. I was like, he destroyed the whole cart, killed the ox. I was like, I gotta walk the whole way now, man.
Yeah, bro. And walking in that game is real, bro. It take a minute and anything can happen. It's so random. Yeah. So that's been Dogma. And then last but not least, of course, the Destiny love, man. Bro, Pantheon is, I tell people all the time, that rating until you've rated in Destiny, it's still, in my opinion, I'm biased, but I still think it's the best cooperative experience in gaming. A 6-man activity. And what it is they've done something we've always wanted to do. It's one of the most challenging things. They've taken some of their best boss encounters and then put them in like this gauntlet style. But each encounter, since some of these raids are old, since Destiny 1, they've added new flavors for the hardcore guys. And you got to use unique strats to get the most DPS. It's challenging, but it's the most rewarding thing also. So much fun. So we did the first one. So it was 4 bosses. And then you have you almost have speed run goals and stuff like that. If you could do them fast to get extra rewards and stuff like that. And from the Deep Step Crypt raid, the Taken King raid, Root of Nightmares, and I believe one more. But man, it was such an experience. It was to that point, Maddie, where like when dudes are messing up, you're looking at your man, and like Destiny has this funny way of exposing who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So like at the end, you look at the DPS numbers and you're like, bro, what are you using? Like you're
when I played my brief 10 hours of Destiny, it was me and 2 other buddies, and I had one friend who was having like PvP numbers and PvE, and I was like, dude, you are terrible at this game. Like it exposes people hardcore.
I got exposed too, because I was like, in one encounter, there's like we love you, but you are not handling the ads in order for us to do this mechanic for all the other guys that need to get across this bridge or whatever it was. And I'm like, all right, what do you got? Sometimes you got to humble yourself. What are you guys doing that I'm not doing so I can improve my gameplay? So I changed my loadout. I got this thing called Tusk of the Boars, this waveframe launcher. It ad clears like crazy. And then my DPS, I had to tell my guys, like, look, in this mode, you have to use these type of weapons for this little extra 20. We need as much energy and 25% DPS as we can. So we got it done. This week, round 2, they add more bosses and more challenges. So I think it's going to go all the way up for about 4 weeks until about 8 bosses, something like that. But it's one of the most fun, hardcore, one of the most challenging things. And I think you get a title, you get a raid ring, you get all this stuff. And I need this because Destiny raiding is my soul. I need to flex. I need to be like, I'm one of them dudes. So that's what I've been doing. Randy, what you been up to?
I too have been playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I think I'm done with Sandland now, just as an update there with the story done. I've done enough side content where I was like, okay, cool. Like I put like 30 hours in this game. Like I'm good to move on now. I really enjoyed it. So I've started to put some real hours into Dragon's Dogma 2. Like these last 2 weeks, I'd say, I finally got my schedule in a place where like I know what I'm doing Monday to Friday. So I've been getting a lot more game time in, even with everything I'm doing. It's been really awesome. And so Dragon's Dogma 2, man, I put in quotes, I beat it. So I'll just say this. You can roll the credits and there's a thing you can do that brings you in the post game. And I'll just say they do one of the most goated things I think I've seen in a game with the transition. Like I don't even want to tease what it is, but it is really, really cool. So I'm in because I checked a guide because I was curious. I'm like, is this considered like the game is done and is this the end game or is this the story still? And from what I read in guides, people call it the post game, but it feels like I'm still doing main story stuff. I highly recommend people, Cog, you too, when you start smelling that end game territory, which by the way, game doesn't really warn you. Like I kind of got snuck up on when I was like, oh, this is the final mission. Okay. And yeah. So I'll just say if you roll credits, you get kicked to the main menu and you think that's it. You might want to reload your game and just, follow a guide real quick. Or I had a buddy who already did that just to make sure you don't miss what I think is the coolest part about the game. Like it is. So I've been in this end game area doing some awesome shit, fighting some incredible bosses.
Wow.
I had one moment I'll say that is in the, we'll say pre-end game. It was a giant, it's like a Titan, dude. And this thing is walking through the whole map. And there's NPCs everywhere just shooting at this thing. I'm running through the map trying to catch up to one of the sickest moments I've experienced in a game. I was like, this is an amazing video game. And it's like scale and scope and feeling a collaboration, even though like you're like the only player in the world. Like the way my pawns were working together, I was giving them commands like go, and they were jumping on, climbing this thing as it's stampeding through the whole open world map. It was sick. I'm at the point now though where my characters are so powerful that you really feel that curve where I'm fighting like an ogre. I've been playing with the archer. I'm just like 1, 2, and his whole health bar is just gone. Like I'm just popping them. Since I'm in the post game area, I will say I want to rank up all vocations to max, but I am slowing that down because I will admit in one of the end game bosses, I did get hard carried by my pawns.
Sometimes the pawns.
So I had a sorcerer, a thief, and I had Bastila, my main pawn.
Yeah, who's she?
Yeah,
okay.
She's a warrior.
What's she do?
She's a warrior right now. Because I've been doing the same thing for her, cycling her around. But I had her as a warrior because I wanted her to be a tank, and I was like, finally, Cog, I'm pulling out the Mystic Spear, and this is my most anticipated class, bro. I walk into this end game boss fight with a like rank 2. Mystic Spearhand. And by the way, I fought before this game makes you work for the challenge. I had to fight the Headless Horseman, that dude who shows up holding his head, and he's a force. So I had to fight him, and then I fought this floating mage, this undead mage. I'm like, okay, let's see what's at the end of this road, and it's another massive boss that has like unique properties and everything. Now, I'm not going to lie, man. My Mystic Spearhand, this thing's flying around, getting around. And I'm in the spectator booth this whole match, man. I'm just watching the homies take care of business. I'm just hoping that, okay, sorcerer, just go ahead, use your ice spell, take him down. And when he's down, I'm like trying my best till I do a little something. I'm doing no damage. Like I was so useless. But it's a testament to how great the game's AI is because I can actually rely on them. But it was there I learned. I went, all right, Matt. You're in the end game. You might want to just, lay down the Mystic Spearhand weaponry.
Yeah.
I pulled out my bow and arrow again. We got to work for the rest of the end game. Took care of some bosses. I was a part of the action that time. But yeah, I have to say I do have a favorite vocation. It seems in the thief. That is. It's so strong.
So broken. It's broken, dude.
So good.
It's so good. Like just it makes me wonder why I'm running around as an archer because I'm just trying to do my part in the squad I have assembled. But if I were really trying to just play for me, the thief, man. But I wouldn't move on to any of these other classes, which I've unlocked 2 more here in the end game. One of which I wasn't familiar was in this game. Wayfarer. I didn't know.
That's like the secret one or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I unlocked it.
What he?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
It's like I think it's a vocation where you can equip skills from any vocation.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know it was in the first game, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
Might have been. It's been a little bit, but yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm just running through this end game now. I've got like 45 hours in it. I will warn people that your side content will wrap up when you wrap up the main story. So just keep that in mind, because I did pretty much my entire side quest log, but like the Sphinx trials, I was like waiting to do those until the end game. I didn't get to finish those. There was like one other archery side quest with the elves that I didn't get to do. So I left like 2 undone that I had personally found. I'd done everything else that was in my log outside of the main story that I had encountered when exploring. But this game, man, I mean, these boss fights are epic. I got into taking down some drakes in the open world, and like it's such a good feeling when you barely scrape by in this game. Like dude, I had the most lonely run back. Main pawn dead, support pawns both dead. I had no healing items left. I hit the final shot on this thing, and there's no like, I didn't have fairy stone. So for me in that moment, there's no fast travel. Dude, I'm jogging back, no healing items, like this much health. Spooky. And I had to be humbled. I found goblins, usually like you just drop kick them and move on. It's like, no, I can't take this fight right now. Like,
you can't do it, bro.
Yeah, dude,
can't do it.
What a game. What a game. So yeah, definitely going to be in my top 5 this year so far. Loving it. Almost done with it. I'm sure by next week's episode, I will have been done with it, because I think I'm very close to the grand finale, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Other game I was playing this past weekend, the Smite 2 Alpha. Many people don't know, but I adore Smite. We talked about this on Summon Sign, so I apologize for the double dip, Brad. But dude, this is a game that I've probably put more hours into than any other game on this planet. I love Smite. MOBAs are definitely my kryptonite. It's the worst type of one more game that you can have in gaming, because
that's your destiny.
When you play one more game of a MOBA, any MOBA, that's an hour. And so when you go, let's play a couple matches, that sounds small in your head until you recognize that you've just spent 3 hours and it's just flashed. It's gone. I've hopped around between League and Smite. After what I imagine was amounting to combined between like PlayStation and PC and the beta and stuff, like a combined at least 2,000 hours in Smite. I moved on to League and I played that for a couple hundred hours, and I really liked League. And I was like, you know what? They got some elements here that are going to get me to stay. But Smite 2 is taking little elements from League now, and now they're kind of, to me, seeing eye to eye. And I love that, because I love Smite's gameplay style. For those who haven't seen it before, it's pretty much a third-person action game. You have face buttons that trigger abilities, treat it like an action RPG. Like any MOBA, you level up with that power curve, that XP curve, and you feel really good at the end of your build. Like, it is kind of like an RPG that cycles itself each match. But since the camera is not in the sky like Dota 2 or like a League of Legends, it's down low. I connected these characters more. You play as like a pantheon of gods. Right now with the alpha, which is not available currently as we're recording this, they had like 14 gods. So there was like Chalk, there was Kukulin, there was a couple others. Neath was there, the classics, Ymir, like the ones that they pretty much started off the original game with. And they're doing an amazing job with account linking. Like, I'm going to be able to import all of my skins, all this money I spent on Smite 1. It's going to come over to Smite 2. You're going to get gems that you had on that account. So that's the microtransaction currency from when you want to buy like their battle pass, whatever. You'll get all of that. You're going to get all the gods. If you buy the battle pass, not the battle pass, you buy the founders pass or whatever, which, it's $30. You get every god immediately. Like, they're doing a great job for a game that felt like it was dying and that a company may have been in dire straits. They're doing a really good job making the transition as consumer friendly as possible. Like, literally no complaints, none. And that's tough to do in a day and age where you just see everyone bungling it. But it's been a fun time. Some changes they added were like, you could hide in the jungle now, and you could actually be camouflaged, and you could really gank opponents and surprise them in unique ways. They changed all the items, so builds are different. There are little permutations, like Athena now immediately applies a CC when she ults on someone, so you can really have that immediate impact in fights. She still tellies on the target, which is also really good. So she's my main, so I was really happy to see changes like that. But this game is going to be great. I was a little. I mean, Overwatch 2 is to blame, but I was a little unsure, like, why are we doing a Smite 2? We had a running joke in our group of a Smite 2, like, because we all stopped playing because we put our hours in. We're like, all right, I think it's time just to focus on other things. And my friend kept joking. He's like, well, we'll be back for Smite 2. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, they're never going to do that. And then they literally announced Smite 2. It was unbelievable. So, yeah, I played that for a little bit over the past weekend. They closed the alpha at 10 p.m. Eastern time on a Saturday, which is
weird time.
Massive. That's the only L that they've taken. I'm like, that's peak gamer hours, and you just shut it down then.
Yeah.
Kudos to them. At least, we were in the middle of a match at 10, and we played till close to 11, and they let us go till then. So we at least got to finish out our final match. But yeah, I am ready to throw some good hours into Smite 2. I cannot wait. So bring that to me ASAP. I think it's coming out in July. So looking forward to it
soon. Maddie, I forgot if I asked you this, but you brought up Overwatch 2, which is a great example for me for this game. Do you feel like it's justifying the 2 outside of a fresh coat of paint?
Maybe not for the newcomer. Like, you're not gonna right now. I'm not seeing massive. Well, there aren't any massive overhauls, but it's a lot of subtle changes that I think bring it in line with other MOBAs. So if you're coming from like League to Smite, that transition is easier. Where for me, going from Smite to League was easy. But I think if you're like just a League only player and you want to try something new, there were a lot of elements in Smite 1 missing. Like I mentioned, the jungling stuff that just wasn't really there in a meaningful way where, it just, I think it made people go, this is inferior. So now they've kind of humbled themselves, brought them in line with the top MOBA on the market. But yeah, it is a fresh coat of paint. I mean, the game looks much better. The animations are better. It doesn't look like a game that was, I think I have a beta video on my Mr. Maddie channel. I think it was like 2011 or 2010.
Yeah.
It's a super old game. So, now being made in, I think it's Unreal Engine 5. Like you could see that already. The UI is super primitive.
Let's go.
Yeah, but it's I think they're doing a great job, and I would say for the 2 to be justified, if as a longtime fan, the new build items absolutely makes it worth it. It's like, great, there goes hundreds of hours again, because I know I'm going to want to know all these builds for all these characters, all these. I'm not even kidding. It's over.
Sound like me in Destiny, bro. You literally sound like me right now.
I got away for a little bit though, and you know what? I was responsible. I maximized my time away from Smite because once it's back, it's going to be in the rotation. I'm going to be like, Cog, like, hey guys, I played Destiny again. Here's this new match experience I had.
Beyond Light, that's literally me. Beyond Light into Final Shape. They've been cooking.
No,
so
I believe you.
I get you when it's your thing, and MOBAs is your thing. That's how I get it.
Yeah. So that's what we've been playing this week. Wanted to get some good vibes rolling, loosen us up a little bit, because now we get to dive into the news. So just to preface things, no warm-up questions. We have over 150 write-ins on our Patreon thread. I picked as many as I could. We have I think 10 under the same subject. So we're not doing warm-up questions. We have one final question to kind of send us on our way that I think was a really good forward-thinking one. And so that's how it's going to be set up moving into this next section, where Xbox has shut down 4 Bethesda Studios. So bear with me here. I kind of wrote a bit of a novel and got really into it. Ooh. And it's going to sound nasty because it is. I'm just warning everyone right now. All right. Stop me if you've heard this opening to a story on Defining Duke before. It's been a tumultuous year for Xbox. The brand has been engulfed in uncertainty throughout a year that was supposed to be building upon the momentum 2023 had brought with the likes of Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, a new format in Developer Direct, and the company's continuous investment in Game Pass. Instead, the brand has found itself in its biggest low since the start of the Xbox One generation, thanks to a multitude of poor decisions, terrible communication, and a lack of direction by higher-up executives as the plan continues to shift dramatically year in and out. At the top of 2024, Xbox underwent over 1,900 layoffs, ultimately gutting key talent across their Activision and Bethesda studios, impacting even their own golden goose in Call of Duty that they fought so hard to earn. The push toward a digital-only future for Xbox seems more prevalent than ever as they continue to ship half a game on disc, and Hellblade 2 being primed to release without any physical copy presence. Xbox's dedication to its own platform is in its strangest spot yet, as this year they've pivoted to a multi-platform push that brought 4 games in Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and Pentiment over to PlayStation and Switch. The claim is that it will only be these 4 games, but we all know better by this point that is most definitely not the case, and today's events show that games like Starfield, Halo, Gears of War, Forza Horizon, and so on heading to PlayStation and Switch is merely an inevitability. This was just in 2024. The Xbox Series X and S has launched with 0 games. 2022 was another barren year for Xbox, where only Grounded and Pentiment were released, Grounded being an early access title already available to many consumers. Its leadership has been shaken up multiple times, the recent one elevating Phil Spencer to CEO of Microsoft Gaming, Sarah Bond to president of Xbox, and Matt Booty to overseeing both Xbox and Bethesda Studios. A trio whose leash has been so long during a generation consisting of the most outrageous decision-making a platform has seen in quite some time that they've now begun to choke themselves with it. The Xbox leadership has symbolized a broader issue in gaming seen in the likes of Bungie recently. It's a results-based business that continues to fire its talent for making the things that studios have been mandated to instead of laying the blame at the feet of the shot callers without the vision to guide a platform to new levels. And today it only gets worse. In a message sent company-wide by Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, a man whose Xbox legacy is likely to be defined by his Fable hype and layoff emails detailing severance packages informed by local laws, here is what he had to say on the matter. Quote, "Today I'm sharing changes we are making to Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds, which you have nurtured over many decades. To double down on these franchises and invest to build new ones requires us to look across the business to identify the opportunities that are best positioned for success. This reprioritization of titles and resources means a few teams will be realigned to others, and some of our colleagues will be leaving us. Here are the changes going to effect. Arkane Austin, this studio will close with some members of the team joining other studios to work on projects across Bethesda. Arkane Austin has a history of making impactful and innovative games, and it is a pedigree that everyone should be proud of. Redfall's previous update will be its last as we end all development on the game. The game and its servers will remain online for players to enjoy, and we will provide make-good offers to players who purchase the Hero DLC. This one, on a side note, cracks me up because he called them the wrong fucking name. Alpha Dog Studios. It's Alpha Dog Games. The studio will also close. We appreciate the team's creativity in bringing Doom to new players. Mighty Doom will be sunset on August 7th, and we will be turning off the ability for players to make any purchases in the game. Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks will also close. We are thankful for their contributions to Bethesda and players around the world. Hi-Fi Rush will continue to be available to players on the platforms it is today. Roundhouse Games. This team at Roundhouse Games will be joining ZeniMax Online Studios. Roundhouse has played a key role in many of our recent game launches, and bringing them into ZeniMax Online Studios to work on the Elder Scrolls Online will mean we can do even more to grow the world that millions of players call home. With this consolidation of our Bethesda Studios teams so that we can invest more deeply in our portfolio of games and new IP, a small number of roles across select Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will also be eliminated. Those whose roles will be impacted will be notified today, and we ask that you please treat your departing colleagues with respect and compassion. We will provide our full support to those who are impacted in today's notifications and through their transitions, including severance benefits informed by local laws. These changes are not a reflection of the creativity and skill of the talented individuals at these teams or the risks they took to try new things. I acknowledge that these changes are also disruptive to various support teams across ZeniMax and Bethesda that bring our games to market. We are making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in our other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. Bethesda remains one of the key pillars of Xbox with a strong portfolio of amazing games and thriving communities. As we look to the future, there is an impressive lineup of games on the horizon. This is the part where he knows it's going to leak, so he puts this. In 2024 alone, we have Starfield Shattered Space, Fallout 76 Skyline Valley, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and the Elder Scrolls Online's Golden Road. As we align our plans and resources to best set ourselves up for success in this complex and changing industry, our teams across Arkane Lyon, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, Machine Games, ZeniMax Online Studios, and the Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will be well positioned to build new IP, explore new game concepts, and expand on our existing franchises. Matt, end quote. IGN reports that Redfall was set to release an offline mode this month that would allow the game to live in perpetuity. That will no longer be the case. The decision to shut down these four teams is one dripping with inexactitudes and contradictions. 343 Industries has released 3 unsuccessful Halo games in a row, including a massive stumble out the gate with live service, of which it only recently recovered from. How does the initiative continue to be allowed to piss away a budget, talented team, and precious IP for years with nothing to show for it? With those examples in mind, it begs the question why the leash is so short for companies like Arkane Austin, who are merely following the same orders Bethesda Game Studios was given with Fallout 76 and Machine Games with Wolfenstein Youngblood, yet 343 is allowed to continuously toil away on what was one of Xbox's most prized IP at a certain point. They had the opportunity to make Starfield and Indiana Jones respectively. However, where is Arkane's second chance? especially when Matt Booty and Phil Spencer publicly took the fall for overlooking Redfall's blatant quality issues. A lack of oversight only highlighted further by a leaked 2022 email where Phil Spencer was hoping that Redfall would do extremely well for Xbox. Hi-Fi Rush was defined by Aaron Greenberg, VP of Xbox Game Marketing, as a breakout hit in all key measurements and expectations. The game was shadow dropped during the company's first ever developer direct and clearly didn't reach the level it had despite corporate lies being fed to the public. Why is it that Tango Gameworks must be shut down because Xbox chose not to market this game during a completely barren year in 2022? Why is it Tango's sin to bear instead of the people who made the decision at the top? The entirety of Xbox leadership underlined the importance of mobile games to a nauseating degree, yet you shut down one of the few companies you own producing them using key Bethesda IP in Alpha Dog Games. You speak to your desire to grow in Japan, yet shut down the only team you've ever owned in the region who produced your best game in 2023. You've displayed the catastrophe that contracted QA and support work can be with Halo Infinite, yet ditch a support studio in Roundhouse, who is reportedly making a game featuring a comic book IP to go spin their wheels on a 10-year-old MMORPG. It has left fans feeling the Xbox 360 era was nothing more than a lightning in a bottle moment as Xbox gears up for its June 9th showcase, where it will no doubt attempt to act like they have a deep care for games and its creators. It leaves talents like Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Compulsion, and the like in an extremely uncomfortable position where you can plainly see Xbox's focus is now on the most massive games imaginable. And no, that's not just an assumption. As of the recording of this episode, Hellblade 2 is due out in 2 weeks with next to little major marketing being done. The writing is on the wall is clear that this game just may be sent out to die. There is a place in this industry for niche games, and Xbox used to be the home for that with Game Pass, but it appears those days are coming to an end as they now hone in on big franchises like Call of Duty, Fallout, Doom, and so on. All right, that's it. I'm done, gentlemen. I want to kick it to you for just top-down thoughts on everything here that has transpired. We do have a writing here to kind of open us up from Jeremiah. He says, "Hey, Dukes, I wanted to pose a question that I think would help frame this week's discussion. What is a closing of a studio justified? What factors contribute to this hypothetical situation? And can you offer any real-world examples? Thanks for all you do, and shout out to the entire LSM team for helping me maintain my sanity after being hit by games industry layoffs in January. Just started my new gig this week, and the podcast just hit different on the commute to the office. I can't log into my new laptop for 24 hours due to IT issues kind of day." Thank you, Jeremiah, for writing in. Brad, you were the one who requested to be on this, man. I want to know, you must have been itching to talk about this. So let's get your general thoughts from the top, and then we'll treat this like an onion. We'll kind of peel it layer by layer and go deeper on every subject. I know there's a million ways to pull at it, so feel free to start wherever you'd like, sir.
It's really like the Tango thing that set me off the most about all this. Arkane, I'm really sad to see them go because they are a talented studio. I know people love Prey and all that stuff, and they definitely deserve a second chance, but like Redfall was a disaster at least. But
sure.
On one hand, Tango Gameworks, like you said, the best game that Xbox had last year was from them. They talk about, or Matt Booty talks a lot about new IPs in that email he sent out. Guess who had a bunch of new IPs? It was them. Ghostwire Tokyo, brand new IP. Hi-Fi Rush, brand new IP. They are extremely creative studio that has so much talent. And like you said, they were talking about making ground in Japan. That's over.
Oh,
feels like gone. It feels like they just threw the talent on Japan. They just gave up. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
You got rid of your one Japanese studio. And yeah, I'm just really disappointed in all this. Like the whole email, them saying like, please treat your coworkers with respect as they leave. It's like, what? Of course you would treat them with respect. Why the fuck would you not do that? It's insane to me. It just feels like night and day from like Microsoft's message from like a year ago. You know, you're talking about we're the home for cool ideas. I know a lot of people are amped up about that kind of stuff. It reminded them of like PlayStation 1 era kind of stuff, like really creative, cool little games that I like. Pentiment, I was really into all that stuff. I thought that was great they were doing that, but it just feels like that's all gone now. It's all just Call of Duty machine or Activision Blizzard machine. It just fucking bums me out, man. It's really sad. I really hate to see this happen. It feels like to me, as someone who likes Xbox, but they're not my preferred platform, but it just feels like they're giving me reasons not to invest in their ecosystem all the time now. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? I don't understand why you're making so many mistakes. How are a lot of these people not fired? how are they still working there? How is Matt Booty still working at Xbox? I don't understand how he hasn't gotten the boot yet.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the number one question on my head, dude, is I know it's considered tasteless in today's industry to kind of like call for jobs. And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily doing that, but the reality is, as I put in the write-up, is the logic is inconsistent across the board in how they treat certain studios versus others and how execs are treated versus the talent.
Right.
It doesn't line up. Look, I respect Phil and co for yanking the Xbox out of the one generation and kind of setting us on our way with an exciting start to the Series X and S with you think a Game Pass, and you saw the studio investments, but they've shifted gears so many times now that it's really hard to have any faith in this leadership core. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can imagine is if you really wanted to have that next level Xbox scope is like, all right, they've stripped all the fat. They're focusing on big IP only. They should be fine moving forward, right? But that's the thing that we've told ourselves 4 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Each time they've reoriented things, each time they've changed things, it's like, okay, well, now they've got it under control. 2022 will never happen again. Now this is it. And we had all those games in 2023, and then 2024 arrives. It's like, now this is the building year. Build off of that. And they've destroyed it. They've torn it down. It's, as you said, Brad, you can't continue to justify these people being in these positions. Why is it when they've continued to fail, they get the longest leash? It doesn't make any sense. Cog, I want to hear from you, sir. What do you think?
Oh, quickly, before you jump in with Cog, I just want to talk about like the executive standpoint. I saw Mike Ybarra, who was the former president of Blizzard and everything. He was talking about like pretty much like he had like a long post, but like trying to give sympathy for Phil. And it's like, dude, I have no sympathy for these execs. They fucked up so many times. They are paid really well. You know, if they got the boot or whatever, they're going to be fine financially. They got nothing to worry about. Yeah. But it's these devs, like you said, Maddie, that are really taking the hit. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'm not asking them, just real quick before I kick it to Cog, I'm not even asking them to do things against the nature of good business. Like, I get it at a certain point, there's foolish investments. But this is where, you know, when we saw what happened with Arkane Austin, think of Forspoken, how quickly Square Enix changed things with creative business unit. I forgot which their names were, but
Luminous.
But
they're Luminous.
Luminous. Thank you. And I think they got transitioned or something. They got changed pretty radically, pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. That happens immediately, right? And that's not the first time we've seen that occur, where when a year has passed, you're fair to assume, okay, like Arkane Austin's going to be okay. Like they screwed up and they probably got one more chance, but that might be all they need is one more chance to just go and show what they can do, not being forced to make a live service game that was, again, mandated during an era of Bethesda where everyone wanted to make live service because they were trying to pump up the company value. And it was because it was an era where everyone was trying to do that. It's bad. It was a dumb choice that stems back to Bethesda, but now they're the only ones who really paid the significant price for it. But Cog, I want to hear from you now, man. I never got a chance to really read your thoughts online. So I want to see where you're at with what's going on here with Xbox.
Yeah, this is extremely disheartening. Very saddened. I think for me, you know, I look at it objectively. We get the news, and I believe it was Solve that told me, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell is going on?" You know, 4 studios from Bethesda get shut down. I'm starting to read. I believe it was the IGN article that kind of came across my timeline first, and I'm just trying to make sense of it. So, you know, the initial result was similar to what Brad said. You know, Tango cut deep. Tango cuts deep because, one, you know, obviously I was blessed to interview John Johannes, the story of Hi-Fi Rush and, you know, him being an understudy of Shinji Mikami and his fight to push for such a different style of game in there, and the unique and the care with the musical aspect of the game, the timing of it, the stages, the way it goes to the music. And just speaking to him, this man exudes passion in the utmost. And, you know, I was just so proud. I was just so proud of him. And to see his note on Twitter, this is how it ends. Man, heartbreaking stuff. Like, I literally was devastated to read that. Also, obviously, I had me and Maddie, you know, we saw Redfall live from Arkane, not at Arkane, but when they had an event to preview the game. And obviously, we know, look, we ain't going to sugarcoat it. Redfall was an absolute disaster once it came out. But I did have the opportunity to interview Harvey Smith. And one thing I learned about him was just the challenges with game development, especially Redfall in the pandemic and all the things that the studio was going through. And as we come to learn, obviously, this was something that they probably didn't want to come out at one point. But this is a luminary in the games industry. Let's be clear. You know, their history I know everybody's saying Redfall, and I get it, but their history prior to Redfall was truly, impressive stuff. So, to see them not get a chance, and then we were told they would get a chance, right? So you have that aspect, which is the trust, right? The trust is broken. So again, Arkane, this is how I processed it. And I'm just going to be brutally honest. When I looked at the list, I said, Alpha Dog, I'm going to be honest, I could see a situation where they would close that, with mobile being the fact that, okay, they have ABK, that's a redundancy. That's just the brutal honesty of it, right? Roundhouse, I didn't know too much about. Obviously, Matty, you helped educate me a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I was excited for their new IP, but I kind of can understand that in a way. There's a part of me that says, as much I don't advocate no one losing their job, and I'm like, yay, pro layoff. No. But what I'm saying is, if I'm trying to make myself make sense of this, I can understand that, because when you acquire, you do have to consolidate. You cannot have redundancies, and there are certain redundancies here. And I have said this, Matty, when Redfall dropped, my exact quote was, studios get closed for a failure like this. I've said that on Define and Duke. So to me, I was always worried about them on some level. And to me, I'm like, okay, well, hopefully either they get, which seems to be happening, some of them get merged into Leon or help or transitioned over, or that studio closes. So there's a part of me, as sad as it is, I do understand the logic behind it. But there is no logic to me that justifies Tango. That is your only Japanese studio. They made like Brad said, your only hit for 20 and new IPs. And it's like, the thing that's frustrating for me is why I love the platform is that there's so much creativity as far as diversity and portfolio. And I'm not going to be disrespectful to places. If you like your hashtag just one, and that's what you want to do, power to you. Not disrespecting, but Maddie, me and you've had this conversation that after a while, it kind of gets redundant to where I am as a gamer right now. Mm-hmm. I like seeing the fresh, new, cool indie thing. I like seeing a turn-based game. I like seeing a variety of that's why the Xbox ecosystem is my preferred platform, and I've always liked it. So this, to me, is a scary realization. The realization is that if you are creative and you have a critically reviewed game, it does not matter. And if you are smaller, hello, you may be on notice, Ninja Theory. You may be on notice, Obsidian. You may be on notice, Double Fine. You may be on notice if this, basically what this showed me is internally what we were told before and what we're told now are two completely different things.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We were told these type of things could exist and coexist along the big titles, and it'll help subsidize and yada, yada, yada. That's what we were told. Mm-hmm. This is a clear indicator that it does not matter. Critical success, all this stuff. And let's be honest, Matty, you said it beautifully in your manifesto. Is that, no, bro, you said it. It's like, I've always told people I didn't necessarily like the stealth drop. I never liked the stealth drop of Hi-Fi Rush.
You had your trepidations.
I never liked it because you didn't give this game a proper marketing cycle. And let's be honest, it was a desert in 2022. Apparently it was held. So this ultimately is what bothers me. The creatives are being penalized. And Dinga said it best in his tweets, right? Don't let them suffer for your mistakes, right? These are mistakes that we just got to be real about it, right? So that's the painful thing. And the other thing is, obviously, I know we're going to get into Lord acquisition stuff. What Japanese studio going to want to work with you now?
We have a writing about that. Hold on. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
I have it right here. Who wants to be purchased by Xbox? Which is same thing. Drew writes, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Given that these studios closed down, we were recently just bought by Microsoft. How likely do you think it is that companies will want to be acquired by Microsoft in the future? Hogue said the floodgates are potentially open for Microsoft to purchase whoever they want. And we know through the FTC case that Microsoft has a comically long list of companies they're interested in buying. But why would anyone want to join them anymore, given the company worth several $trillion isn't even a safe enough home in this wildly volatile industry? Harvey, I just got bought by Microsoft, and all I got was one good game before I got shut down. Kind of day. Thank you, Drew.
Bro, it's brutal. And you know what it makes me look at right now? I mean, this is conjecture. I'm not going to sit there and know anything, but I did find it interesting, Brad, when Shinji put out the note, he was leaving the industry, right? So we're like, okay, none too unusual. You know, a lot of guys that have a studio, you know, you get bored, you cash out, you're in the club with your man from Ninja Theory.
I was going to say, exactly like that guy.
Listen, that's part of the game. I get that. So I'm like, all right. But then, Maddie, we had a little report not that long. The unretiring.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he may be working with Cameo on something. And I told people to keep the eye on Cameo with Platinum, right? I felt internally something was going on there and he wanted to continue, but maybe they didn't want to continue with him. I'm not saying that happened here with Tango, but what I'm saying is I just find it interesting that you unretire now. Did you know something? Were you unhappy about something? It's just, again, maybe this is too much speculation, but there is something in me that he's back, right? And why wasn't was it a situation with leadership that was currently there with the successor after Shinji? Were they not set up to win? Why weren't they given a second chance? I don't understand why they were not afforded that, especially when Xbox themselves said it met every metric. They were fighting with people online. They were saying no, because I think Grubb got attacked. Excuse me. He was kind of like, look, I heard it was a failure or whatever, right? And the last thing I'll say is I got a lot of top level thoughts, and we're going to get into a lot of stuff either, but it goes now to make me look at the business meeting now. And we look at the business meeting, we look at those 4 titles. We look at Sea of Thieves, right? Okay, I'm not going to say it was a failure, but that got sent over. Okay, makes sense. But we know Pentiment got sent over. And we can all admit, as much as Joshua, I love you, finished your game, amazing. But we know that was not a critical success. A commercial success. It was a critical success, but it wasn't a commercial success, right? Grounded. Loved the game. I was mad, but nope, quality game, great. But was it a commercial success, right? Now we have Hi-Fi. And here's the sad realities. I got to go corporate cop a little bit. The sad reality is that game could not have done well because also we have a data point right now. It's on PlayStation. It ain't moving. So the sad reality, as much as I don't like this part, from a pure, cold-hearted shareholder perspective, they're looking at it like that's not moving. And what this indicates to me is the direction in Microsoft has definitely internally shifted. And those people that they have to answer to, whether it be shareholders or whatever, there's a new directive. And it definitely changed along the lines during ABK at some point, whether it be during the course of the trial or not. There has been a shift. And to me, I am seeing the results of that. So I know we got ton more to talk about, ton of stuff, but that's just my top hits. I'm extremely disappointed. I'm extremely saddened. And I guess for me, it's just, I worry. I worry about if you don't produce, because we saw the email what Matt Booty said. We saw what the focus is, the bigger titles. I was shocked that they were this transparent with that. Right. So when I see that.
Definitely not a good feeling if you're getting fired for that. Like, hey, what you worked on. Sorry,
it was all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Not that important though.
You ain't Call of Duty though. You ain't Diablo. You know what I'm saying?
That's a lot of TV show. You're not getting those numbers. Sorry.
Yeah, you know, and
I saw it as.
Yeah, I know there's more questions we'll get into, but that's the top level thoughts, and I'm just really, really saddened by everyone that lost their job. I want to be very clear. Getting laid, I'm a person that's been laid off. It is brutal. You lose your health insurance. You lose, like, they offer you whack Cobra. Cobra, I'm sorry, it's just not, unless, you know, it's just very expensive. You know, your life has completely been upended. What do you do? Where do you go? You know, and I feel for every one of them, but very sad times.
Yeah. I think 2 things come to mind here. When it's, you know, we find out Hi-Fi Rush was apparently a success based on one tweet. You wonder two things. Number one, can you trust anything these execs say anymore? No. You never really could, but last year we really started to pick up on like, Phil talks out of both sides of his mouth. This year has been a disaster, a masterclass in horrible communication. But you also wonder one thing. Let's say that is true. And I'm not saying this out of code, but let's say it's true. Let's say Hi-Fi Rush, they looked at it and went, hey, these numbers are good for Xbox. Like, these are good, sell more than we thought it would. It's getting more play than we thought it would. Okay. A lot of these changes have arrived after the integration of Activision Blizzard into Xbox. And I think that dramatically shifted their cost structure, their finances. Everything changed after that integration was done. And you have to wonder if one of the major shifts there is the optics of what a success will be moving forward. Like, you look at Hi-Fi Rush and let's say pushed 1 million sales. It's like, we need 5 million. And it didn't even, with the multi-platform push, it didn't even sniff that. So I wonder about that a little bit. I wonder about the inside baseball on what the shift of optical success is. Because I think Greenberg, I can't imagine him being that dumb to be like, let me just put out a fucking lie here. But at the same time, man, these corporates on Xbox are so heavily involved in this fanboy war bullshit that I also can't sit here and think like maybe it just wasn't true. But clearly it wasn't, because they shut the studio down. My other thing that comes to mind, my other problem, Xbox has had and still has an awful, awful problem in identifying talent to keep versus talent they let go. Here are some big names that have left just very recently. Pete Hines, maybe you put an asterisk next to that one, but he retired, said of his own choice, but his retirement being so swift after the acquisition and the leaked emails, you wonder. But we could put an asterisk next to that one. However, John Johannes, Shinji Mikami, Harvey Smith, which I've gone on record, especially when Redfall released, and I said, that man's a legend. I mean, no disrespect to anyone else on this list. That man's a legend and absolutely deserved the full throttle of Microsoft support to make something special. That dude is a straight up legend. And I know he's selfless. His whole thread was about the team. You can see how much he cares about the team, but that guy has a vision, unlike many other devs, and he deserved a shot.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the biggest crimes. But you've pushed away two legends, Tamim Antianades, who was the studio head at Ninja Theory. He left recently. While they've managed to keep studios around, like, I'm sorry, 343, Bonnie Ross was around for a stupid long time. You look at Perfect Dark, dude, they lost all of their talent at the Initiative. All of it. The report said all of the talent had left, and they had to bring in Crystal Dynamics. And we're hearing reports now, and they're mild ones, but it's from Jeff Grubb, it's from RPG Site, it's from Shinobi, saying it lines up that this game's gone nowhere. Again, it goes back to what we see and hear and what we know, and it's not lining up. How you've managed to let go all of these or lose all of these key players that are the reason you probably wanted to acquire these teams in the first place. I know 2 of those teams are now gone, right? But these were like driving reasons. Like, you get these incredible minds that have defined these brands. Now you've lost them all, but you keep around the ones that are A, destroying the IP that made Xbox relevant when it first launched, and B, one that has, what was it announced in 2020? And we have nothing to see of it, and probably won't see anything of it until 2030. And again, this goes to the top. This goes to the top where it's like the talent identification is clearly not there because the execs are still in their positions after continuously floundering and faltering everywhere. It's a shame. It's a damn shame, because so many of these teams deserve better. And I'll admit a little bit of foolishness in thinking that there was a little bit more, like there was a plan here. Like, hey, we're going to give all these teams a shot to make something that they want to make before we start putting them in line, right? Let Josh Sawyer get his Pentiment out because we want him to go make a Fallout New Vegas too. I respected the vision because it seemed like that was the thing. Like, Josh Sawyer is like, hey, I'm either going to leave or you're going to let me go make Pentiment. And so they did something there to respect their talent, because you need to retain it. You need a mind like Josh Sawyer's, for example. So it felt like they understood the impact of that talent. But with these layoffs and these studio shutdowns, I know in some sense it's inevitable. People will eventually move on or leave or whatnot. But they have not just butchered what they currently own, but have killed interest in things that still exist. And that's the biggest problem of it all, is that now you lack the talent where, oh, we're going to fold some of this remaining talent so you want the remaining talent of the studio you just shut down to go work on a new fucking Fallout game? Is that the idea? What kind of hope does that inspire? Like, hey, we got the scraps that we kept around. No offense to anyone, but we got the scraps we kept around to go work on Fallout or Elder Scrolls or Elder Scrolls Online. Like, I don't know, man. We have this interesting perspective that I just wanted to highlight here, and I'll kick it to one of you guys. Emmy Young writes in, "Hey Dukes, after browsing Reddit and X and watching the latest Mr. Matty Plays video, I have a feeling I'm going to be alone on this one, but I'm not bad about today's news. Of course, for anyone who loses their job, there's nothing worse. I really hope those people find something better for them real fast. But as a consumer, I think this is really a good thing. The fact is, these studios aren't producing anything that a business can support. Tango sold 10,000 copies of Ghostwire in Japan on PS5 in its first week. Japanese gamers didn't want it. Hi-Fi Rush is a critical darling, but just over 3 million people have played it. That's not sales, that's players. Arkane made Prey, which is one of my top 5 games of all time, but it was also called the best game no one is playing. Guilty of that, by the way. I had that in my title of a video after it came out. It didn't sell. They then had Redfall with a small portion of the same team that made Prey, and it was an obvious disaster. Notice Obsidian isn't touched after the commercial failures of Pentiment because they've got a long history of bangers, so they aren't shuttered. Long term, this could be a very good thing. We don't know how many of the developers have been laid off as of now. It could be a small number. It could be a big number, but you can bet the most talented people aren't being let go. They'll be moved to other studios. Let's say we get a Fallout studio out of this. You've been screaming for Fallout games for years. This is how you get it. You want more Elder Scrolls games faster? This is how you get it. There aren't a ton of really talented devs out there floating around in the middle of nowhere just waiting to get snatched up. They're going to take the great devs from these studios and put them on other projects. Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Blade, Starfield, Fable, Clockwork Revolution, OD, Avowed, Everwild, Perfect Dark, with a question mark next to that one. South of Midnight, Indiana Jones, State of Decay 3, Towerborn, Outer Worlds 2, Project Mara, Contraband. And that's just what we know. The future is still bright. Corporate restructuring usually means more focused output. Xbox fans have always said we care more about quality than quantity. Less games that are better is a good thing. Sorry for the lengthy write-in. Just wanted to give a different perspective from what I'm seeing. Again, I'm praying for the people who lose their jobs, but I'm still confident in the future Xbox is set up. Xbox fans need to have a be careful what you wish for, because if you want more Fallout, you might not like how you get it kind of day. And I'm going to just with Fallout on the brain here. Let me skip to another write-in from Lee Davies. Greetings, Dukes. Quick question about the studio closure announced by Xbox this week. Matt Booty said, quote, "We are making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in our other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games," end quote. Do you think this may have happened to enable them to begin work on some sort of Fallout game sooner rather than later? Keep up all the great work. Cheers. So, Cog, we've definitely beat the war drum on Fallout and Elder Scrolls and whatnot for a while. Do you think, I mean, this kind of times out well where Todd says, we're looking to expedite that and then force studios shut down.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So do you see a connection here at all?
It's possible. I mean, the only reason why I do feel there is some truth to that is because, again, Matt Booty's comments to me were extremely interesting, because normally you get the typical corporate speak, hey, we're so sorry, we've lost these people due to the changing climate of the industry, yada, 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 right? We are focusing on a prioritization of bigger titles. And I know it's scary some, because as a person like myself who loves indie games, who loves creativity, I worry about redundancy and sameness in games. And I kind of mentioned that earlier. So look, I cannot give them the benefit of the doubt right now, because trust is completely broken right now. We have to be honest. Yeah. But if I'm looking at it objectively, yes, there is a part of me that does say, this is the first time we saw Todd Howard actually come out and say, if we're going to get a Fallout game, would you be, considering ramping that up or getting other people involved and helping out, especially with the zeitgeist that is the Fallout TV series, right? And we all talked about, we cannot go generations without Fallout games, Elder Scrolls games, and yada, yada, yada. So there's a part of me that this is them looking at ZeniMax as a whole and how to streamline. And we have to be honest now, prior to acquisition, they were not in a good place at all. They were trending downward. They were feverishly chasing the live service bag. I remember Wolfenstein Youngblood. People forget, and I understand this is the anti-acquisition. I know I'm not acquisition. I know I'm going to get the smoke. But I just
got to
want
write in for it. But
I know.
Yeah,
so,
don't worry. Yeah,
we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But I just want to be clear at the conditions prior, right? So what I'm saying, I'm not saying their plan, I'm confident it's going to, they have to earn that trust back. But what I will say is I do see a situation where they are looking at the inefficiencies of Bethesda. And like I said, outside of Tango, which I completely disagree with, I can make a case that those other three have been inefficient. And especially, let's be honest, like King, the one that does the mobile is a redundancy. And I already said that Arkane Austin could have been closed down in any other situation, in any other any other umbrella. And then the other one, again, Roundhouse, I didn't know too much, but I always looked at them as a support studio, and now it looks like they're merging the ESO. So there is some truth that if you want Fallout faster, this could be the way. They have to earn that trust. I have no confidence that that's going to happen, but I could see that lane. So it's on them. They've got to prove that this is the right path of what they're doing, and they have to execute with quality games. But yes, I do see some potential there. Is the long and short of it, and that's what I'm hoping for. Is what I should say.
Brad, I saw you shake your head when I was posing the question. What about you with these two write-ins here? Do you see a little bit of impact with the success of like Fallout, or the desire to go chase the Call of Duty bucks? Do you think this, how much of a factor has this really played in these games, the experimenting phase being over?
I think it did. But first, I want to get to that email, the first one, about as a consumer, like this doesn't affect them. Like this is like really affecting to me as a consumer for Xbox stuff. It's like you closed one of your best and most unique studios down. You could have had them make a Fallout game. It would have been awesome to see their approach on some of these IPs that they love. Yeah. Something really unique. I would have loved to see that. Yeah. I don't think you needed to close those studios to get to that spot. At least Tango, particularly. You can make arguments for the other ones, but Tango, I think, is a no way. And I think they're making a big mistake doing all this. You could have Fallout, you can have all this stuff, but I find it so weird that people are trying to spin this into something good that the means will justify in the end. It's like, as someone who's not hardcore in the Xbox system, but I enjoy it, it's like, how can you keep buying what they're saying to you? How can you keep buying what they're doing and trying to like, oh, well, it's not all that bad. How many times are you going to let them pull this on you before you realize it's like, no, they're fucking up, man. They don't know what they're doing all the time. They're making mistakes.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you could do that. Like, you have all these talented studios that you could have do work for. Like Tango, I'm just so hung up on Tango because they are so good. And it's like,
totally understandable. Yeah.
You could have them do stuff. You could have them make a Fallout game if you wanted. I don't want just Fallout constantly. I think Fallout's great, but I don't want it to become like a yearly or every 2-year thing, because it's just going to lose. It's going to become mundane.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, surprisingly to many of our listeners, I wouldn't want that either. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, get what I want, stop it. But it's like,
it's
you can have Fallout and keep Tango.
Yeah. And it's exactly. Story. It's like everyone's saying like, well, this might get us more Elder Scrolls or more Fallout. And it's like, they've made mistakes and there's been too long, but this wasn't the answer to necessarily get that. You can make adjustments, especially from Microsoft. What do they have? $3 trillion. It's like they got the cash to make things happen.
Yeah.
It's just, it really upsets me, man. All this creativity and passion is just gone for chasing Call of Duty. When you already have people doing it, you already have like how many teams working on Call of Duty, man? How many got to fall? And it just like, I thought back to when they bought Activision Blizzard. I was like, oh, sweet. Maybe they'll start doing some really cool stuff with Blizzard IPs now or something. There's some hope. Sure as hell doesn't feel like it. It's starting to feel like business as usual with Activision. It feels exactly the same almost. Like, aren't Call of Duty games not even on Game Pass yet?
Well, actually, it's so funny you bring that up, because I linked you guys an article here from The Verge that just went live 30 minutes ago. Colin actually sent it in our chat, and I was looking it over. And there's some key information. If you don't mind, I'll read it over and I'll kick it back to you, Red. Because, I mean, there's a lot here. I haven't read it all in full, so some of it I'll be discovering in real time, but I skimmed it real quickly, and it'll be very relevant. So let's get into it. I'm starting at the part where it says Inside Xbox. So inside Xbox, there's now uncertainty about what the future holds and questions over Microsoft's gaming strategy. While Microsoft is looking toward a more PC-like future for its Xbox console, the company continues to battle a slowdown in Game Pass subscribers, lackluster console sales, and game launch delays. A combination of these events led to 4 previously Xbox exclusive games launching on the PS5 and then landing on Switch. I reported earlier this year Microsoft has been considering bringing Gears of War to rival consoles, and we're still waiting to see if the long-rumored Gears of War collection is ever confirmed. Either way, I'm still expecting to see more Xbox games arrive on PS5 and Switch, and it'll be interesting to see if Xbox Game Showcase in June includes any new announcements for rival hardware. Microsoft has also had internal debates about whether to put new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass. I understand this is a debate that has been ongoing internally for quite some time, with concerns from some that the revenue Call of Duty typically generates for Activision Blizzard will be undermined by Game Pass. I'm told that Microsoft has also considered increasing the price of Game Pass Ultimate again. I just want to pause there because this was one of the things I had in my notes that I wanted to talk about is like, this is the next step. 1,000%, this is the next step because a lot, as we'll talk about with Game Pass and sustainability, a lot of the changes being made here are definitely due to Game Pass not growing at the rate they expected it to. And it's now completely stagnated their business and they're making drastic cuts to keep it afloat. Continuing on here, it says these are only considerations, so a final decision could mean we still see a future Call of Duty release appear on most versions of Game Pass. The debate internally reflects the fact that Microsoft's Xbox strategy has shifted from just delivering its games exclusively into Game Pass to consider bringing more Xbox games to multiple platforms. In yesterday's memo from Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, there was a hint of reprioritization for Bethesda teams that we may well see elsewhere with Xbox. Continuing down here a little bit, he talks about Hi-Fi Rush not really meeting that bar and says that Xbox now has a strong lineup of games for 2024 with Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 set to debut in a matter of weeks. I understand Hellblade 2 is another game that Microsoft has been considering for PS5. If that ever happens at this point, it's not clear if it would even be considered a success. Xbox employees are now bracing for what's next, as it seems unlikely that we've seen the last of Microsoft's gaming layoffs and cutbacks. There are whispers among employees that core Xbox Game Studios are set for cutbacks next. Last month, Microsoft reported that Xbox hardware revenue was down by 31% year over year, and an obvious admission that this was driven by lower volume of consoles sold. Last year, Microsoft reported a 30% drop in Xbox hardware revenue, blaming increased console supply from the prior year in 2022. Sony's PlayStation 5 sales have also slowed, but not like Microsoft's. While Xbox hardware sales are a cause for concern, Microsoft has been beating the Game Pass drum in recent years, telling us the Xbox business isn't about how many consoles you sell. But Microsoft's latest earnings show that Xbox content and services, which includes Game Pass, would have only been up a single % without Activision Blizzard. And overall gaming revenue would have declined without this giant acquisition. Microsoft CFO Amy Hood is now expecting Xbox hardware revenues to decline again next quarter. Microsoft's gaming business isn't growing without Activision Blizzard right now, and how that plays out throughout 2024 will be key for all Xbox studios. Microsoft has a busy fall ahead for Xbox, with Bethesda currently targeting September for Starfield's expansion Shattered Space, Activision planning the next Call of Duty for late October, and Avowed and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 are likely to follow in November. To top all of that off, Indiana Jones is planned for December. If Microsoft Game Studios can deliver all of these games on time, then there will be plenty to play on Xbox this holiday, with a new Gears of War title expected to be announced during the summer showcase, along with some release dates for other anticipated Xbox games. Microsoft will be banking on some new game announcements lifting the doom, that's with a capital D, by the way, around Xbox. So that's a cheeky hint by Tom. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, but the company's gaming strategy still looks unclear, and the challenges run deeper than a handful of holiday launches. So a lot to take in there. It sounds like to me, based on this read and this projection, that they're going to let 2024 ride as is. And if I worry for companies like Obsidian, dude, I really do. Man. That if they go out and they get trounced with Avowed and don't do crazy numbers with that game, yeah, I already said I think that game's set for a delay. Or Indiana Jones, like, what's going to happen to them? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. I had a connection to Tango in that I loved Evil Within. I always thought they were super overlooked. But I mean, a company I have like a deep love for in their games would be Obsidian. I worry about them analyzing this year, and it's pretty much like this or nothing. And I would say the obvious decision was, okay, let's say something like Avowed fails. Well, it's Obsidian. Go kick a Fallout game their way, right? But you brought up earlier, Brad, like, well, you kind of had Tango to maybe consider that idea and do something different with it. Like you had them, like all these teams could have just been repurposed to focus on your bigger IP instead of completely cutting them down. So I don't know if that decision that in my head immediately seems obvious is there for them. And so that speaks to the dissolved trust, which Vonoran wrote in about, saying Duke's trust is gone. Why should we put money toward Microsoft? Fuck Xbox. Microsoft is the one running the show now. What did Tango do to warrant closure? This comes on the heels of Microsoft not only opening the floodgates of exclusive titles, one being Tango's, but also after Satya doubling down on the move recently and hinting toward future releases. As Xbox players, we were promised exclusives until we weren't. As Game Pass users, we were told to invest in the subscription because it's healthy for game developers, except it's not. As consumers, if we don't buy a product, it leads to studio closure. But why buy a product when Game Pass sets the price of entry lower? It's hard to feel value in the brand, especially now when the writing on the wall is showing no matter what or where Xbox players invest in, it doesn't matter. How many times were we told about Hi-Fi Rush's success? C.S. Levy, Ninja Theory. So yeah, with that article in mind, Cog, I'll kick it to you, man. You know, what do you think of Tom Warren's reports here on potentially more trouble on the home front here with more Xbox studios getting cuts? Hellblade 2 going to PS5. I mean, a lot here. So how do you want to unpack this?
There's a lot to unpack. Oh, shout out to Tom. Yeah, man, this is too far. Two things going on. One, the trust is completely broken between the community and leadership. Right. Yeah. That's to their own accord. We there's no dancing around that. There's no sugarcoating that. Now where we are is as far as hearing this updated report as far as Xbox Game Studios. And this is something that I got to be honest, like that's why the Tango thing hit hard, because I'm looking at the reverberations of that. Again, that type of studio not allowed to continue, which again makes me look at Ninja Theory, makes me look at, Double Fine, what makes me look at NXI, what makes me look at anybody who I consider like small to mid-size that doesn't necessarily have this AAA blockbuster out of the gate. Like, for example, in contrast, Playground, I'm not worried about. They have Forza. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not concerned. But anybody else, I have to be honest. Yes, this is something that, you as a studio head, right, need to be concerned that you need to look at that studio of Tango being shuttered and look at what your North Star as a developer and what you were told and promised what you would be allowed to do when you signed with Xbox. I've interviewed almost every studio head they've had. And the story is always consistent. Cog, we looked at the landscape, we were potentially shuttering, but what made it great about coming to Xbox Game Studios is we are allowed to make what we want to make. That's what I was told. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I think I was talking to one of the heads of Ninja Theory at the time, and it was kind of like they used a beer distillery example. Like we were this small little local bar, and then it's like, Budweiser comes and says, hey, you could use our facility and you could do whatever you want to do. That was the picture, and that what got people in there. Right. Including, leadership at that time. So what this shows me is, again, clear directive shift. The plan that was 2018 is not the plan that is now. And this is scary. I think for me, like the article said, like Hellblade 2, what happens if it's not a commercial success? Right?
I think we all know. Yeah.
That's the thing, right? That's what now this situation puts them in front of their showcase, which they're supposed to show a plethora of games and get a plethora of excitement. This is the reality. And as far as I thought it was interesting he mentioned the Game Pass Call of Duty situation. As far as whether or not, that's very interesting. You know what I'm saying? If it wouldn't be in Game Pass, that would definitely be a surprise to me. That's something that I thought that after all of that litigation that they would fight that because it's still going to multi-platforms. They still get their revenue there, especially with the 10-year deals. But yeah, this unfortunately puts such a dark cloud on them right now. And I just have to be honest. People who are at Xbox Game Studio, the Undead Labs is another one. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to look at this very seriously. And I don't know that my concern is I hope that this was it. But you can't say that with any confidence right now. You can't. There's no way you can. You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's unfortunate that, so this news, not too surprising because that's how I felt once I saw Tango close. Nobody is safe if you are not, according to Matt Booty's email, the high budget, big prioritization title.
Yeah.
That's the message that's being sent right now. So
I mean, how crazy is it to see the year they had last year, right? And that their business grew 1%. Starfield, which by the way, I'm not talking from like the fan reception and all the vitriol online. I'm just talking about like by nature of video game hype and conversation and zeitgeist, how legitimately minimal the impact Starfield had on the Xbox brand. That's unbelievable. That had to be spirit crushing to be like, without Activision, we'd be a dying breed right now. Mm-hmm. That's it. That the fact that acquisition was paramount to their success, but perhaps they saw the writing on the wall because remember, we make jokes all the time. Like it was hell or high water. Like they had to get this done at a certain point. We saw how far they were going. This makes sense. Why they signed those contracts, why they were bending over backwards, why they were being the nice guy. And that's where the origin of Beware of Evil Villain Xbox came from, because I was like, they're doing everything for something. And then you see how it plays out here. Brad, what did you make of this article here, man?
Yeah, I was just thinking about like Game Pass and Ninja Theory, particularly. It's like, I feel like that game's being sent out to die almost.
Yeah.
There's no physical edition of that game, which already hurts it. And it's like an 8-hour game, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's, how much is it to buy? $50?
$50, yeah. That was the first price reduction we saw for what we consider a AAA quote unquote title, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it all comes back to just Game Pass for me when you're talking about Starfield. Like, I forgot how many players they said they had playing Starfield at a point.
They said it's their most played game ever. And the interesting part about that as well is they said, to the note of the stats here, we're reading about Game Pass slow growth, and 1%. Matt Piscatella posted that I think year over year game subscription growth is like up 1%. So Game Pass is doing nothing. That Starfield had the single most subscriptions in a day for Game Pass ever. This is off the heels of Pal World. This is off the heels of was it High on Life? They've had tremendous Game Pass successes and still not more than 2% growth in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, I know Colin's been beating this drum forever, but it's like, I don't know if that even matters though. Cause if no matter how many players they have, it doesn't make sense financially for them if they're only going up a percentage. And with Hellblade, whatever measure they're going to do by success, it feels like doomed. Cause I don't think it's going to sell a lot. Cause I mean, when I play the game, I'm just going to do Game Pass for a month and just sub. Cause like, that's a game I'm going to be one and done. You could have got $50 out of me, but now you'll get 10 or whatever it was now. So you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And I think if Starfield wasn't on Game Pass, it would have done a lot better financially, regardless of the quality of the game. I think it would have made way more money. And if it was on PlayStation, which it might be in the future. So
it will.
this whole model of Game Pass, like the idea of it's great, we're on Game Pass so you can make whatever game you want, is awesome. But at the same time, these aren't adding up. Like what they're saying and what's happening financially are not adding up, and they're starting to listen to the money more. And the stuff they were telling you before, like you guys said about Ninja Theory getting bought up and the whole brewery analogy, it's like that's starting to go away. So I'm very afraid for all these studios, like you guys are saying. I'm really nervous. Yeah, I'm particularly nervous about Ninja Theory.
Yeah, Ninja Theory. I mean, I'm gonna just to keep it real. I love Hellblade 1. Hellblade 2 is not going to move the fucking needle at all for Game Pass. It's not going to move the needle for sales just by nature. By the way, not their fault. This game got a couple of trailers. We were led to believe because of how many trailers it got and how it was announced alongside the Series X. Like, this is Brad. We talked about it on Someone's Sign. Like, this is going to be their God of War moment. Like, this game's going to be big. And then they're like, no, we're doing like AAA independent games. And so this is going to be 8 hours long. He's like, dude, so you just showed a massive amount of this game. Like it went from, we've seen nothing yet to we've seen so much that you can't show anything. And I think that's why they're not marketing it, because they put themselves in a hole. I don't think Ninja Theory wants to ruin the game because most of the stuff they've shown are probably moments that they felt comfortable showing. And in an 8-hour game, your window is this small. That's all you can show. So that's why I don't think marketing's going on. And to a separate point, I don't mean to harp on particular execs, man, but like Aaron Greenberg posted a tweet. I sent it to you, Cog.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're getting ready for a big marketing campaign for Hellblade 2. I'm like, this is the only fucking company that would try to create hype on Twitter that they're going to market a game. Like, we're going to put it out there, y'all. It's like, yeah, I would hope so. You fucking invested in the game. You bought the company. This is their first game that they've released since you've owned them. I would hope so.
Yeah, how long has this game been in development? Like 8 years or something?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Bleeding Edge is the weird one in between. I forgot when that came out.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah,
everyone forgot about Bleeding Edge.
Yeah. Ninja Theory's in a weird spot because everyone thought their game was going to come sooner. I mean, it was announced alongside the Series X, so I thought it was going to be a launch game. I was obviously way off about that, but that was the way I interpreted it. Like, oh, you're not going to show this game next to it unless it's the nearest to completion, the nearest to ready. But again, that was apparently wrong. And so then they started up Project Mara. They start up another game. Like, they have 3 things in development over there. But it just seems like everything's showing that Xbox is sprinting away from the artsy fartsy games. Like,
yeah,
that's the reality. And I don't know where Ninja Theory fits in on that. Not that I'm advocating for this, but we have to talk very matter of fact that we're learning here in this article from Tom Warren, who's been bulletproof, that Xbox is going to make more changes, more cuts. We have a game on the horizon here that fits beautifully in the mold of, oh, this could be a critical darling that does not sell well and does not move the needle on Game Pass, when a game much bigger and much more hyped did not do that. So what will? Nothing will.
Yeah, and it's like, they're changing their strategy. Ninja Theory is making the game that you said they could make.
Mm-hmm.
A smaller game. You should have had the foresight to know what this game will do financially, especially with your model of Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And it seems like to me, if they're punished for that in the end because of the sales of the game, it's just another notch in the belt of them just being unwise with their talent in studios and having no foresight, I would say. Yeah. Unless Satya came in, Phil's office and like kicked his desk over. And he's like, yo, we're doing it like this now, and it's all out of Phil's hands, which could be the case. Like Phil could
very well be the case.
He could have a gun to his head. I have no idea.
Not a gun, but I get where you go.
The guy with a gun to his head.
It just seems like it's the exact opposite of what they said, and everyone who is doing their job and doing exactly what they told they should do and can do, they're being punished for it now.
Yeah. What do you guys make of Call of Duty on Game Pass? Because this is a key decision for them to make. This is you can't sink this golden goose. I think you got to sell it. I don't think you can put it on Game Pass.
I would, if I was them, I wouldn't put it on Game Pass. I would just be like, it's out.
Yeah.
You could put it on Game Pass later, maybe like a year later or something like that when the next Call of Duty's out.
Yeah.
But you're going to miss a lot of money.
Yeah. Like, what do you think about the strategy of last year's Call of Duty? This is going to be some sad shit, but last year's Call of Duty goes on Game Pass the day the new one comes out.
Yeah.
Because some people go back to the old CODs. So I'm just trying to think on this COD ecosystem as someone who was in it for so long. I was like, dude, there were new COD games that I played. I was sick to my stomach. I go back to the old one. Mm-hmm. So let's say Modern Warfare 3 is available in Game Pass today, the launch of the Vietnam Black Ops game.
Yeah. Wait like a year and a half maybe or something. And don't announce it. Just sprinkle it on there real quick. I totally forgot that's going to be their big showcase.
That's going to be the direct.
That's going to be direct.
It's like, it's financially, I understand it, but that is not exciting. That is not an exciting thing to be focused on. Like Call of Duty, it's like, okay.
That's what we said when we talked about the direct. We said this is all business. Last year was fun and games. This year's all business.
Not exciting. It's so boring, dude. Like you don't have to advertise Call of Duty. You don't even have to do anything. You could just be like, oh, Call of Duty's out. And so many people would buy it.
We got to be clear that it does. They have to have messaging to let the casual know that this is the home of Call of Duty. Right?
Yeah.
They have to.
That could be huge for them.
Right. That and let's be clear. This is where I will push back in the sense that I do feel we still, based on what was said last at what it means to be Xbox at the business update, it was said Activision Blizzard King Games, one of our first games to enter the service as all their titles will be entering, was Diablo. They made that publicly clear. Mm-hmm. Now, again, trust is broken right now, so it's hard to believe things, but I'm just going by what was said last. I expect it to be there. And to me, Game Pass is still the platform. Game Pass is still what they intend to, quote unquote, lead them since they made that strategic shift. If you intend to grow Game Pass and you have the biggest franchise underneath your roof, it behooves you to put that into your service that hasn't had growth that you expect it to have, especially with the trial and everything going on as long as it has. So I do think it will go in there. I'll be shocked if it didn't. I'll be surprised if it didn't, but I do expect it to go in there. And I do expect, I guess my frustration is more like this. I guess because I'm out on this panel, I am the only, but like I feel like I live, breathe. Xbox is my preferred place. That's where I play 100% of the time. Like if I had a choice, that's where I prefer to play it. So as a person who sits there, I guess my thing is I still see, you know what I'm saying, games and things on the platform. I still see like, damn, if they allow the vision to cultivate, like they said in 2018, I see it. So for me, you need to put Game Pass on it. You have 31% hardware loss or whatever it is. You need to have Call of Duty on the console, right? I think it would be a colossal mistake if we find out, according to this Verge article by Tom Warren, that it's not the case, right? So we will see. I'm going to stay with the belief that it is, but because that's still part of what the core vision the last time we saw them, last time they spoke to us. But yeah, man, that's just where I'm at. But it is, I will say Tom Warren's article on studio health is concerning. If there's an internal feeling that everybody's like on pins and needles because there's still more cuts to come, so to speak, right? I guess the another thing that's the most surprising thing of all is I thought we were finally at the tail end of this with them on the layoffs and the thing, and it still seems it's more and more and more. It's not done yet. And that's the part that I'm like, wow, thought we were out of the clear, but yeah, it seems like not.
Yeah, I just don't think they can afford to not to put it in Game Pass. Like that, this screams of like desperate measures, right? Because I if I were to wager a guess, the one that they probably had the biggest trouble cutting loose was probably Tango, because there was no good reason to do so. And so that screams to me like we need to make cuts because we are like our Xbox side of the business, like which is now Bethesda, because in fairness, Bethesda's been a part of that for like 4 years now. And if you've only grown a single % over this year, and like it's only they're realizing like, hey, it's Activision or nothing in the terms of growth, and we have to appease our shareholders. So they're going to cut these costs. So I feel like if you need to make money, I don't know what they do with Game Pass, where they go one of two routes. They either don't put Call of Duty in there, which creates the question mark that already exists, which is like with like Blade, like is that going to be in Game Pass, right? Or is that going to be exclusive? I think, by the way, games like Doom, which seem to be teased for an announcement in this article, I think that's coming to PlayStation. I don't think that comes out exclusive, because we didn't know the answer to that for a while until Indiana Jones, if these new games coming from different Bethesda studios were going to be exclusive. But I shouldn't say Indiana Jones, sorry. We actually still don't know with existing IP, though, if these games are going to be exclusive or not. I think that's out the window, though. But I feel like they either go that route of just release Call of Duty as you would, don't put it in Game Pass. I don't know how you rationalize it. Or the other thing is, when you put it in Game Pass, you have to raise the price. And
see that.
And that's going to be another shitstorm, because now they're giving you less and having you pay more, which is what every subscription service ends up falling into. And we knew it was coming. There was no way that price was going to stay. But now that the business is they're done waiting and seeing. They're done. They're acting way more rash.
I do want to be clear, though. I'm looking at this statement from the business update that they put the 4 games in. This is Sarah Barnes' quote. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things. Like you said, all of our games are always in Game Pass. I'm so excited to announce with the coming together that we had with Activision Blizzard King, that Activision and Blizzard games are coming to Game Pass starting with Diablo 4 on March 28th. That is literally from the update that announced the 4 games going multi-platform.
I don't believe her.
I feel that.
And I like Sarah, but like I just don't. I can't like that. I would have believed that a month ago, but now
fair.
I just can't. If I'll end up looking foolish a lot on the show probably, but it's just it's so hard to believe what's coming out of their mouths, because just so much of what they said has been inconsistent or contradicted heavily. Where did they even know they were going to close Tango at that point in time? I don't know. I mean, I have a speculation that maybe they were pretty aware, because there was a gamesindustry.biz article that talked about, I highlighted it on the show and on my channel, how they said 2023 was the year of layoffs. 2024 was the year of studio closures. And I was like, okay, so you got, what was the company falling through the floor? Embracer. And they ended up splitting off to Middle Earth and Friends.
I remember that.
I was like, okay, they could have tipped him off. Or you see this, and I'm like, there's two culprits now. There are two suspects now in the case.
Yeah, also PlayStation London, Embracer. We had layoffs at EA. We had layoffs at Take-Two. This is an industry-wide problem. This is not exclusive to Xbox. That's the only thing I want to be clear is like, I get the frustration and the pitchforks, or I get it. They deserve all the smoke. I'm not absolving them. But what I want to be clear is this is not isolated. This is an industry issue where creatives are being laid off and studios are being closed. So the issue really is at the top level from a stakeholder perspective. Once stakeholders get a hold of it and they see how much money you are, oh, you're just as big as Windows now and you're at the table. Oh, well, why aren't we these are Satya's old comments. Why I don't believe in exclusivity. Why are these games not everywhere? What's up? What's going on with that? And if your vision and internal targets are not met, I've been in these meetings, bro. I'm trying to tell y'all, like in corporate, this is how I go. I've been on projects where I've been working on it for over a year, blood, sweat, and tear, coming to the office. This is the initiative. This is the project. This is the rubric. This is what we try to get to. And then a random Monday comes and say, yeah, Cog, everything you worked on, everything that you thought was going to go down, that's over now. Group B is now leading this initiative, and this is where it's going. It's as simple as that. So a lot of it is not about, oh, we just lying to be lying. If the top level, I've been in these meetings of men, if Zuck and them say this is what it's going to go, that's where it's going to go. So I get the emotionality. I get everybody, but let's be clear. Clearly, something has changed. Clearly, internally, what they said in 28 is not happening. And I'm a firm believer that up top now, stakeholders are in the building. And whether it be ABK took too long and now they need ROI immediately, something has happened. Something has changed.
Yeah. And that led to the multi-platform civil war internally. I mean, the problem with such a volatile industry is, I already highlighted how you're losing talent, and that's happening all over. But, you got to think of like the new talent too, right? Like that's the thing is if you're going to school for this, I'd be scared shitless. It's like, dude,
absolutely.
Stepping into a wildfire. As someone making a game, I'm just like, who? Like I'll just say, I can't say who, but like a few Bethesda developers have reached out to me since my videos went live where I was just fucking popping off on like every platform. And they were sharing some things with me where it's just like, this is a really weird time for funding and publishing, and the higher ups are to blame for this, according to these individuals. And it's, I think we could already put that one together, but to have that reach out and that conversation, as an indie dev, I'm looking at it like, dude, this is why, not to make it about me, but just to throw out there, like, this is why I'm very insistent on like my team continues to work in a part-time capacity and we have our own side hustles, because you don't want to be here full time, man. You don't. No one wants to be here full time. I want to be a part of what I do, but I can't trust this industry for shit, or any partners we end up working with for shit, that they're going to have our backs, because clearly when push comes to shove, it's, as Cog said, just, it's over. Snap. That's it. And I get it. It's a business, but there has to be a value placed on the people who made it a business in the first place. And that is the thing we're missing, is that you're eventually going to run dry on new talent coming in through the door. Bethesda Game Studios might have the best of them all because they have a great modding community that they can just hire because people are already working with their tool set. Like they might have it the best because you can learn for free, and they're like, hey, you already know this tool set? Great, you're hired. And that's it. Like, but otherwise you go to school for it, or you learn online. Like there's, it's a really weird spot for the industry where it's not just Xbox in that regard, and we need to figure it out quick. And I don't know how you go about that. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on it, whether it's due to overspending on COVID or buying up big companies that you didn't need to drastically transform your business in a negative way. Whatever it may be, we need better foresight that, layoffs are going to happen at one point or another, but it cannot be in such a seismic manner every time where we're fucking cleaving through 4 teams, 1,900 layoffs. Like these are sizable divots each time. Think of it like you're golfing, right? And sometimes you get that nice swing, you go clean through the grass, and sometimes you take a huge clump of grass up. And that's kind of what's happening each time. We're just taking out the ground every time these layoffs happen. They're not happening in small ways. They're happening in big ways every time. And it's just not sustainable. It's not about the human element, the well-being of the people, which is also terrible. it's the well-being of the industry, which it goes beyond the software sustainability that I talk about all the time. This is the preservation of talent we're talking about.
Yeah.
Again, no one wants to work here because you people who work at these companies cannot seem to figure out how to keep things stable enough financially to just maintain talent for year over year. And that's why games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth should be celebrated, for example, because that's a team that had 90% come over for their next game. Mm-hmm. And that should be the standard, not the rare expectation that happens from time to time. Right. Or exception, not expectation.
I have a quick question. Sure. Just particularly calling for you because you're so into the Xbox ecosystem. You know it all. I'm just really curious. I just want to go back to Call of Duty real quick.
Sure.
And my theory with Diablo coming to Game Pass was because that is a live service game and they need a player base. And at the time, the Diablo player base was rapidly falling.
Yes.
So it was a new way to get people in, especially because they're going to be doing expansions like every year for this game. So it is a live service game. So it makes sense. And I was just wondering about Call of Duty COG. Now, it could totally come to Game Pass. I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen. But my only question is, if Call of Duty is kind of like a live service game, but they come out with a new iteration every year. So do you think they're like, well, we can just get people up front for this year and the next year instead of trying to keep them in one game, particularly like with Diablo? Because they're going to make a lot of that money too. And my other thing was, if it doesn't come to Game Pass, what do you think the fallout of that will be like?
I don't think it'll be, as much as I predict that it will be a Game Pass, I agree with you. I don't think it'll be, I agree with Maddie in the sense that I don't think it would be too much negative. It would be negative reaction, obviously, because they're going to get the hit pieces that you lied again. Because they're going to pull up the article that I pulled up and they're going to say, well, what happened to that? Right. But to your point, if it's strictly about revenue, if Maddie's point is correct, where the shift is so dire, it's so, we need return on investment right now. This experiment from 2018 has failed for whatever reason, right? I could totally see that multiverse where they go, hey, we got to make this available. You may get it later, but you'll get the older ones, or you'll be like an EA Play situation, which is currently on Xbox, right? Where the new game comes out, Mass Effect Trilogy, Madden, and all that stuff. You don't get it at launch, but then 6 months later you get it. I could see that. I know it's hard to believe them right now, but I do think there's a part of me that they had to think about this moment as about how they intend to move forward with this service, because I'll tell you why. This is why I believe for me that it's going to happen, is that I'm going to be honest with y'all. When the business update happened, I was ready for them, Maddie, to say Xbox day and date Game Pass games, that's over. I thought they was going to rip the Band-Aid off then and just say, yo, it didn't work out, guys. We pivoted to this new strategy. We're going multi-plat. And by the way, that core element, because we know if these games are available for retail, they can get more money, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to just putting it in the service. But what it still showed me is like, okay, they had what I considered the 5 tenets, what it means to be Xbox. It was like, all your games come Game Pass. I'm like, you're still committing to that after? Wow. That it just... In the mix of putting 4 games out on multi-platform, I thought this was the opportunity. But to Maddie's point, still could be lies, still could be BS. I don't know, but that's what gives me a little. I don't want to say confidence. Confidence is the wrong word. That gives me a little idea that at that point, which was this recent, what was it? February we had that. When do we have that business update? I'm trying to remember.
It's a fucking blur now, man. I was trying to think of that when I was doing my script. I was like, the timeline is so fucked in that so much has happened so quickly.
Yeah, but yeah, to your point, Brad. The way Call of Duty is constructed, obviously you got your main campaign, you got your multiplayer, and then you have, looks like Warzone is that subsidiary kind of thing. Yeah. I think that they would put that in there, see what the Game Pass numbers do as a result of that, and then from there it will be an assessment period. But it is an interesting inflection point. We will see what happens. I
do like that, to test it at least 1 year to see how it does. It's like how Sony tested putting Horizon Forbidden West on PS Plus. And then they were like, oh, we lost a shit ton of money on that by doing that. I wonder what that'll be. But I just don't know with Call of Duty. Call of Duty is such an anomaly. I feel like it defies all the rules. And they could just do whatever with it. So I don't know. I mean, I hope it comes to Game Pass. That'd be awesome. But I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We have to see, especially with this article that Maddie just put me on too.
Yeah, I was going to say, Cog, if you wouldn't mind reading that, I can't get access to the Bloomberg article. I know you might be able to, but Jason Schreier has also posted something very recently.
I'll put it up right now. Okay.
Yeah, cool. And it's talking about some of the reasoning behind these layoffs, and I'm reading online. It's saying things about a Hi-Fi Rush sequel was pitched. And
wow. These are bars.
Says, I'm seeing this clip here. It says, both Tango and Arkane released games last year and were looking to hire additional staff as they pitched new projects, which Booty and Braff suggested was the main factor behind their closure. Shinji Mikami's Tango's founder and studio head departed last year. Bro, they fucking shut these teams down because they couldn't hire a few more people. I can't. Yeah, Cog, if you want to, just so we can get full context. But,
I'll just read it if you don't mind.
No, please.
Long, but please. I think it's telling.
Valuable.
All right. So the article said Microsoft Xbox planning more cuts after studio closings. And then I'm going to paraphrase. Obviously, we know what happened. This is the early stuff. Okay. Spokesman decline. Employees were shocked by the unexpected shuttering Tuesday of the 3 Xbox studios. The closures included, we know, I'm just going to get into what the new relevant information is. Yep. During a town hall with ZeniMax staff on Wednesday morning, Xbox President Matt Booty praised Hi-Fi Rush, but did not specify why the company had shut down development studio behind it, according to 3 people who were in attendance. Speaking about the closures more broadly, Booty said that the company studios had been spread too thin, like peanut butter on bread. And the leaders across the division had felt understaffed. They decided to close these studios to free up resources elsewhere, he said. Booty added that the shutdown of subsidiary Arkane Austin, the longtime developer of Prey, because before its a critical commission, before its closure, Arkane had been looking to return it to its roots by pitching a new single-player immersive sim game, such as a new entry in the Dishonored series. Those leaks. Remember, I told y'all that leak was real. Dishonored 3. That's pain.
Just read that. Say it one more time.
All right. Before its closure, Arkane had been looking to return to its roots by pitching a new single-player immersive sim game, such as a new entry in the Dishonored series, according to people familiar. Jill Braff, head of ZeniMax Studios, said in the town hall that she hoped the reorganization would allow the division, which also developed Fallout and Doom, to put more focus on fewer projects. It's hard to support 9 studios all across the world with a lean central team with an ever-growing plate of things to do, she said, according to audio of the meeting reviewed by Bloomberg. I think we were about to topple over, she added. Both Tango and Arkane released games late last year and were looking to hire additional staff as they pitched new projects, which Booty and Braff suggested was the main factor behind their closures. Shinji Mikami, Tango's founder and studio head, departed last year. These cuts at Xbox come amid a wider contraction in the video game industry due to economic shifts, a period of rapid growth during the pandemic. Recently, the gaming division, he goes on about what's been going on in the industry, the cuts. I'm trying to see if there's any new relevant information. In recent years, Xbox deeply invested in Game Pass, a subscription service, yada, yada, yada. We're both saying, massive growth. Matt Piscatella, executive director from Circana, said video game subscription spending in the U.S. had been flat to low single-digit growth since the middle of 2021. In our data, Game Pass spending really had its big growth period in late 2019 through early 2021 and has since settled. Purchasing games and add-on content as well as free-to-play models are still the vastly preferred method of getting to video games by U.S. consumers, as at least for now. While there's no indication that Xbox plans to ditch the Game Pass model, there are hints that its big bets have not paid off. During the most recent quarters, sales of Xbox content and services were up 62%, but as Daniel Ahmad pointed out last month, the growth was entirely due to the acquisition of ABK. On social media, he noted that without sales from that deal, Xbox gaming revenue would have been down approximately 5% year over year with no software and services, yada, yada, yada. So, it just says, the console revenue down. The company, final paragraph, recently began releasing some of its games on competing platforms. In a March interview with Polygon, Phil Spencer said that the thing that has the most concern for the industry is the lack of growth. So that is the latest article. So it looks like games were pitched, which is very sad to hear. Yeah. Very, very brutal to hear that we weren't allowed to get a Dishonored game, and we weren't allowed to get a potential, looks like a sequel. So for Hi-Fi, this is really depressing.
You couldn't have fucking drawn up a worse story for me, man. As someone who's begged for a new Dishonored, that was like the game I sent everyone to after Redfall. I said with Harvey Smith, like, give that man the budget and let him make an immersive sim of dreams with Arkane Austin. That is such a fucking bummer to hear, especially because we're now learning, like, oh, we're spread thin. You know, we don't want to overhire. Just, man. This is what this goes back to what I said. I don't want to be like a broken record, but why the fuck are these people calling the shots, man? Seriously. We're afraid we're going to topple over, man. Oh,
I'm sad.
Too late for that.
Yeah, we are here.
Too late for that.
It's interesting. They were talking about that article, how they're having trouble managing all these studios or whatever. And it's just kind of like, well, what did you think was going to happen when you bought all these studios?
Yeah, exactly. You know, we talked about how it seemed like it was too much to manage. And I think the most real moment of that was Redfall, you know, where they just went, we had no idea. I'm like, how the fuck?
Yeah, how the fuck do you have no idea?
How did you buy this company? Maybe see the game mad early, and then just after that go like, hey, you guys got it handled. Like, I don't know if that's some next level trust or what, but that's bad. We had this right in here from Steve Forgione that I wanted to throw out here as we think a little bit deeper on all this. Greetings and sorrows, my fellow Dukes. Was Xbox acquiring ZeniMax delaying the inevitable of these studio closures? We know ZeniMax's failed live service push during the late 2010s led to their openness to selling off exclusivity and ultimately being bought out since they couldn't be saved by Bethesda Game Studios at the time. If Microsoft doesn't acquire ZeniMax, do we see these studios closures much sooner? Thanks, and have a we can't be back without it first being over kind of day. Another interesting thread to pull out here. Was this inevitable? Was it going to happen no matter what? And we just got a few more years, so we were able to get Hi-Fi Rush. I know it's going to sound like I'm trying to, let's find some faith to restore an Xbox here. I'm not doing that, but I'm just wondering, objectively, do you guys think that this was going to happen either way?
I think that's fair. I think that's a total fair analysis. I mean, Tango, I don't know how long they would have lasted. I don't think their games sold nearly as well as they probably should have, which is
even
really
within
sad.
One was probably their best selling game, and then Hi-Fi Rush was their most played, which is different metric.
Which is sad because they're a great developer, but I definitely think Microsoft kept them alive for a long time, which is awesome, and I'm thankful that we got more games out of them. So if that's the case, then like that's great. I'm really happy we got that. It's just like the false promise of that really hurts, I guess.
Yeah. Agreed. Don't have too much to add there. But I'm with you, Brad. That's how I look at it. This games industry is so volatile, and it's live to fight another day, brother. It really is. And I just think that unfortunately, I know how angry I am. I know I'm depressed I am about this whole situation, but I remember, man, I remember ZeniMax at that time, and I remember picking up Youngblood. I'm like, what is this? This is not.
Yeah, Youngblood is
not the Wolfenstein I love. Like, where is this? What is this? What are we doing? No, baby, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? It's one of them. So, man, that's why I think, if you don't mind, Maddie, could you transition? Because this kind of leads into what I want to. There was a question for me directly as Lord Acquisition.
Yeah, I actually had this up.
Okay, my man.
You're good. You're good. I appreciate you calling now. Let's do it. Nat Patterson writes in, hey, Dukes, what does, quote, Lord Acquisition, end quote, have to say about these studio closures? Has this impacted his position? Does COG still think this is good for the industry and that this is the future of gaming? Has this affected his, I think about what's good for the players attitude? Will he admit that Colin was right? I know I'm coming in hard, but I'd really like to hear what he has to say in regards to the strongly stated position on Microsoft's practices and how we are now seeing layoffs and closures with more to come, probably, which that read was right. Anyway, COG, all you.
Shout out to Nat, man. Now, this is fair. I think, obviously, I knew this day was coming. But, no, look, I've been Lord Acquisition for a while. And, look, this is, obviously, I'm at the worst position to comment on this day. But the reality is this, like I said earlier, this is a tough business. This is an extremely tough business. And I've seen a lot of these studios that I love. I'm an older gamer. The Midways, the Acclaims, THQs in its earlier forms, studios that I love just completely go away. And while I'm not going to sit there and say that, every time a studio is acquired, it's always a good thing. But the reality is, again, you live to fight another day. All I tell people, and I want people who are against acquisitions to just objectively answer this question. Look at Activision, Blizzard, King prior to Microsoft's involvement, right? Or acquiring them, excuse me. And we remember the scandals of the Bobby Kotick situation, the culture, the legal ramifications. We saw studios all kind of wrapped into now making Call of Duty games, whether it be, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm not saying that Microsoft came and they saved the day and now everything, because clearly they're doing some similar things. We're not going to sit there and say it as far as the, big franchise. I will be honest about that. Yeah. But my core point is, I always tell people, what's the alternative? That's all I ask. Mm-hmm. If you don't like acquisitions and you're not, but you think it's evil for the consolidation industry, fair, cool. All I say is, okay, so if a studio's about to close at that time, and here's the key thing. People have to stop acting like Microsoft comes in as this hostile takeover. You're coming with me. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm strong arming a girl at you coming with me, you mine. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. You have to make yourself available to be sold. There are other people, the same thing as Bungie, right? Other people, a company makes an internal decision. We are not going to make it. Help, offer. Someone has to answer the call. So that's
a good example in your defense. A good example I just want to throw out there is Platinum. When they were drowning, I mean, they were sending out the signal.
You saw Kamiya like, yo, Microsoft, we love you. Remember? Remember? You know what I'm saying? So again,
they had a statement saying they'd be open to being acquired by Xbox. Not to over defend you, because I want you to be able to do it yourself, but I would just say in your defense, there are a lot of companies that have been very public about the live to fight another day energy.
Yeah. And look, again, I guess the core of my whole little philosophy is, I'm going to be honest, all I care about is the games, bro. I'm selfish. I want my game. Like, it's breaking my heart right now with Maddie, with Dishonored 3 not being able to continue, right? Well, I'm breaking my heart hearing Brad talk about, I'm not going to get my beloved Evil Within, right? All I say is, prior to this acquisition, what if they were killed then? What if we never got Hi-Fi Rush? What if we never got Ghostwire Tokyo? That's all I say, guys. I know not you guys, you my brothers, LSM fam. But I know some of the LSM, some of the Dukes around the do. I understand it's a touchy subject and it's awful. But that's all I care about, bro. I literally do. So I always say, hey, if that helps you, you could maybe survive, you could restructure, you could do that. And then the last point I'll say is always the circle of life. The hope is this. The hope is Harvey Smith, John Johannes, they come together. Mm-hmm. They make something. The hope is, you see Kamiya, Mikami, they come together now. The hope is that circle of life of people saying, okay, we're going to do something our own. We're going to build something. We're going to make our own studio. That's where we get like some of the Archetype studios and some of the ex-BioWare devs there and things like that. That's the hope, And the last thing is, I'll say, is what is frustrating, what we alluded to earlier, is the wrong people are being penalized for the mistakes. And that's the part that's a bigger issue than acquisitions, in my opinion.
Yeah. Collar, I think you're totally right about living to fight another day. You're right. No one's like holding a gun to their head being like, we're acquiring you right now. They made the choice. They accepted the bag. They got paid. And like, I totally get that. The only thing is, I just think some of these, they didn't get duped necessarily, but the game has changed from what they were told.
Good point. Fair.
Acquired.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate.
In your defense, and I guess partially my own, I think the reality is that I don't see anyone really saying is these conversations about acquisitions are not nearly as one-dimensional as people are acting like it is. And I have to say that in your defense, because I had a couple of people in my mentions that were like, see what you were touting? I'm like, motherfucker, shut up.
You would never, I got to defend you. You would never like touting. If anybody, it was probably me, but you always were objective.
I was definitely in that mindset though of like, this could enable more creative projects. And when you saw things like Pentiment and Hi-Fi coming out and there were no major layoffs, it's like, okay, like this is going kind of how I expected. They should be okay. I don't like this kind of zing gotcha mentality people got with acquisitions, because let's say we learn that what we were talking about earlier, and someone wrote in about that, these studios are going to be closed, but at least Tango was open long enough to give us Hi-Fi Rush. Am I going to circle back around and be like, see, you dumb motherfuckers, this is what I was talking about. This is why acquisitions are good. You never would have got Hi-Fi Rush. It's like, it's such a weird toxic circle jerk, man. And it's not as one-dimensional as you pretend it to be. And I know people think I'm being like callous and defensive over it, but I'm really just telling you straight up, it's not that simple. It's never been that simple. So stop acting like it's that simple. I get holding cogs and mine feet to the fire. If we're sitting here, I mean, we've never had a moment on this show where we love these types of write-ins. We love when people challenge us because it means you're listening like that. Mm-hmm. We love that. It doesn't make us uncomfortable. We enjoy. So please continue to do it. It's not about us defending ourselves. It's just that you need to understand clear as day that it's not as simple as like, well, a gun was put to their head and they got blown out and you cheered them on while that happened. It's like, no, they got that bag. They invested in, by the way, these founders invested in their personal wealth. Got a ton of money. As Cog mentioned, sometimes that parachute flies out of that company. They set up a new one. We've seen that happen with like Forza Horizon, where they the studio
Matt Brown.
He went on his own studio. And there's dozens of examples. We don't really need to pull them all up here because it will run the risk of sounding overly defensive. But I will just say, just strictly in your defense, that it's not as one-dimensional as people put it. And it's really, really easy to come back around when massive layoffs happen or studio closures happen and go, see? Told you. But I feel like we could have done that a number of times leading up throughout this entire stretch after Bethesda was acquired by Xbox. So, I normally just keep quiet on it, but I just don't think it's fair to you at the end of the day. I think it's an easy attack at the end of the day.
And it's hard to be like 100% accurate. Some things in business you could see there's signs, but like Cog said, some things are just like the flick of a switch, just like that. Things change overnight.
Yeah. So, and that's clearly what happened here. I mean, we saw some of the tea leaves earlier in the year, but I think we were all, even Xbox's biggest haters, were led to believe like that was it for a while. 1,900 layoffs, massive changes to all of these studios. People really like gutted over it. I thought that may have been it. I didn't think that was it permanently. I didn't fool myself in that, but I thought, all right, we adjusted to regulate the business, right? It's like, nope, not done yet. And apparently they got more coming and probably more next year. So we'll see, but kind of leads into another write-in we got here. We got two more really to round things out before we, I think, put the topic to rest until next week where we can talk again. What studio gets chopped down next is the question here. Dan Cat, the Man Cat. Sup? With the recent news of closures that everyone is writing in about, I think the natural question that follows is, which other studios are the least safe? Certainly not the most positive question, but especially with Tango, it seems clear studios aren't as safe as we thought. Have a good day, Dan. And I know this is, again, something that typical games industry coverage finds tasteless, but I think we're just ignoring the real conversation that has to be had here if we don't talk about who's the likely target and who our audience should monitor, who our audience should keep an eye on, and who we should be keeping an eye on. So I know we've talked a bit about Ninja Theory, but is there any other examples that come to mind for you guys of teams that maybe you have increased concern for? For me, it's Compulsion. I think they got the most artsy style game.
Man, you're right.
They've been quiet for a while, and they got We Happy Few under their belt. And I think one other game.
And I want to add on to that. Interviewed at the time the community manager when they were just around right post acquisition, and actually leaked the fact that Compulsion, because I just wanted to know when they were working on what the new game would be. And they leaked it, hey, it would be over the shoulder third person. So everybody's like excited they told us what the genre was at the time. Yeah. But listening to having the interview with them let me learn that they were very lucky to be here. Because I believe their first game was Contrast, which was a PS4. I had it for PS4.
It's PS4 launch game.
Yeah, launch game.
That game was awesome.
Very cool, very, stylish game, but like you said, smaller, artsy. Second game was We Happy Few, which we thought had tremendous potential, right? Yeah. But it just didn't work out. The design of the game changed. The way it was explained to me, Manny, like, they are very fortunate to exist. In that time, pull it together. They've been through also some internal shifts. That community manager's not even there anymore. And now to where they are with, like you said, South to Midnight, which we hear smaller game, very bespoke style, right? Kind of stop motion kind of thing. Fair. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to give you a little extra context with Compulsion. But yes, they are someone to look at. I agree.
Yeah. Like my eyes are on them mostly is like, okay, you haven't delivered something since you were acquired. Anything you did beforehand, if that plays a factor at all, which I think if you look at Tango, it has to. It's like, you brought value beforehand. So I worry a bit about that. And it's a shame because it might be the last of its kind. It's clear Xbox is again taking that real hard focus on big budget blockbuster IP, so your Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Halo, Call of Duty. It's very PlayStation when you think about it. It's very much like get the big of the big, and I wouldn't be surprised if the next thing they do is start looking at TV and movies. And so I'm not advocating for it, man, but I really do worry about Compulsion. I worry about Double Fine.
Yes.
My God, yeah.
Don't let Arkane
Don't kill Double Fine, please.
No.
That would be another tragedy. But you look at a game like Psychonauts 2, like what a gem, man.
Awesome game.
I mean, what a fucking gem. I don't mean to like size them up right now, but I remember when Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came out, people were like, it's a Pixar movie. I'm like, no, I think Psychonauts is the Pixar movie, dude. That game is awesome. And if you are listening to this and you haven't played it, like, please give it a chance. Like, I was super close-minded on that game. I think it was just like weird 3D kind of platformer, not really for me. I tried it. That game really, like, its story and everything, it's incredibly good. Incredibly good. But, in Xbox's new world, is there a market for that?
Yeah. Valid point. I'm sorry, Brett. I was
just saying, I think all those studios that are working on smaller, more artsy kind of games should be very nervous about what's going on. Like, you guys are saying Obsidian, and it's like, I'm kind of nervous for them too. Like, they're not necessarily in that, but they got stuff like The Outer Worlds 2, which probably helps, in Avowed. But like, I don't know, man.
No, you did right. Good point.
I just feel like Ninja Theory is close because Bleeding Edge was like a humongous flop.
Yes.
People forgot that game even exists, essentially.
I covered that game too. Interviewed guests for that. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about Bleeding Edge. Jesus.
After Hellblade 2, it's like, how long would it take them to make a next game or whatever they're going to do? How long is that going to take? And if Microsoft wants to wait around that long, probably for a smaller game. Because like the bigger games they tried, Heavenly Sword. I like Heavenly Sword.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Odyssey to the West, Enslaved.
Yes.
They did cool DMC, Devil May Cry. That game is so underrated. In my opinion, I love that game. It's a cool game.
I think the combat's really good, but I just don't like the story and the tone of it.
You don't like him?
I think the gameplay.
I'm your prom date, you ugly sack of shit. You don't like that?
No.
I was like, no.
I think the game's good though. I think it's a good game, and it gets too much hate in my opinion. But I prefer other Devil May Cry more.
Sure.
But yeah, I just don't know if Ninja Theory, if their next game, like, I don't know if they're gonna make a huge game again.
Doesn't sound.
It just seems like they're in a smaller camp. And I hope Microsoft gives them the chance though to be like, at least one more big ass game.
Yeah. That's the thing is I feel like the logical answer was if any of these teams are at risk, you pivot them into projects that would put them in a stronger chance to succeed. Like, okay, Arkane, I say this as a massive Dishonored fan. You have Dishonored 1, 2, Death of the Outsider. These are amazing games, but each one has had diminishing returns. Like Dishonored 1 did really well, 2 did worse than 1, Death of the Outsider did worse than them both. Okay, we can't do this. But if you want, like, maybe we could do an Elder Scrolls Dark Brotherhood immersive sim style game.
Exactly, immersive sim, like Brotherhood, Thieves Guild, whatever, some kind of immersive sim like that.
Yeah,
fire.
Right? I think it's an easy spin for them if they can find like these impossible resources to sustain them. I feel like that's the obvious thing you do here if you're Xbox. But with these other teams like Ninja Theory, it's like, oh yeah, have them spin up and start doing these kind of PlayStation style AAA exclusives with known IP. I mean, I don't think based on the spirit of that team, they would be cool with it, but it's
either Insomniac had to.
Yeah, you give them a choice. You're like, it's this or the highway, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, that sucks. And that will be a story unto its own, right? When and if that day comes, how we react to it. But I think if we have the benefit of hindsight, but with Tango, it's like, well, if we knew it was either, hey, go make Hi-Fi Rush 2, or let's just say, go make a Fallout spinoff, but at least you get to stick around.
Yeah.
Xbox would look like a bully, but now they just look incompetent, which I think is worse.
Just wanted to add on, because this is a great point with the studio stuff. So I'm looking at their portfolio, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to take Betty guesses. This was a fun little game I wanted to do. 343. Here we go. Heard your diatribe, Maddie. I watched the video. It was fire. You were there. Unfortunately, because of the scope and Halo, I think they're gonna still get a chance to survive, even though you can make the argument, like Maddie has eloquently said.
At this point, it's too late. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they've already committed. That's not going. Yeah. World's Edge, I'm gonna say they stick around because I know we don't particularly care for the Age of Empire stuff that they do.
Yeah.
But I believe internationally and in the PC market, those games sell very well.
They're super important for that.
Yeah.
If that what we're reading here about this kind of PC-centric strategy moving forward, that's going to be super important for them moving forward. You think? So
yeah, you think, right? Coalition, I'm going to say yes. Obviously, that's Gears. That's Coalition. Compulsion, we talked about. We say, hey, you got a question mark on you.
Yeah.
Double Fine, hey, you got a question on you until your next release. The Initiative, we just heard big questions on them. We don't know what's going on, right? In Exile, question. They came, look, Wasteland 3, we love it. Smaller game. Now, Clockwork Revolution looks fire, but has to release. We got to see how we do, right? Yeah. So they question. Mojang, safe. Minecraft, they ain't going nowhere. That thing has been keeping Xbox alive with the money. That thing prints money. Ninja Theory, we talked about. Obsidian, we talked about. Question mark. Playground, safe, I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Once you have
that's
Forza
the pivot
Horizon,
we're talking about. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's the pivot. Right? That's hey, this is our racing team, but go work on Fable.
That was the beautiful thing about the vision, right? It's like, yo, they're going to be allowed to do something else, right? So we're going to say, at least because of the strength of Forza, safe. Question, Rare, which I think.
Oh, that'd be real. I mean, all of these would be bad, but that one, I mean, they already have been said to be responsible for just fucking killing Rare. I think the PlayStation release of Sea of Thieves has bought them a lot more time.
Good point. They extended the clock.
I think they looked at that and went, all right, you got value. Yeah.
Brad, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Sea of Thieves did buy them a lot of time with the PlayStation, but like I look at Everwild.
Bro, where's Everwild?
What the hell's going on with that?
What the hell going on? Facts.
Like, do you guys have it in you to make a good game now outside of Sea of Thieves? Like, Sea of Thieves took a while to get really good. It had a good blueprint, but to get to the content it needed, it took a while.
Good point. Absolutely. Great. Turn 10, where we at?
Dude, I'm you know, it's so funny. I don't feel like Forza Motorsport made the noise it had to last year.
No.
I think it did well, but it definitely wasn't the takeover I anticipated. And maybe Horizon misguided me, but I feel like there's a new king in town on racing, and I think Horizon has taken its place, and I don't know if there's a need for why have a okay, think of it like this with the baseball games, right? Like, why do you have MLB 2K and the show?
Redundancy.
Yeah. You know, I know they're from different companies, but right at a certain point, the one's going to engulf the other, especially when it's coming from the same place. So if you can get a simulation style experience, which I know to the Forza bros out there, I apologize. I know it's not the exact same thing. I respect and understand. Correct. But from the business standpoint, those minute differences are not enough to probably justify continuous investment. I'm going to put a question mark on them. I'm going to be honest.
I agree. And this is one of their first studios that Peter Moore and them founded. So I agree. I think that, I don't know if the appeal of motorsport, even though it's a hardcore for the simulation Forza bros, does it translate to commercial success? Don't know. And the last one, because I just wanted to keep this expert, otherwise I'll be here all day, as far as Undead Labs. And I think we're all safe to say that is a big question mark.
Yeah.
Right? We've only seen a trailer, vertical slice, and they've had so much internal turmoil since
it's weird.
There's Jeff Schrain and those guys left and leadership and whatever. So
it's weird.
Yeah. It's about half and half when I looked at it. You know, it's half that I see it and half that I'm like, ooh, we don't know.
Yeah. It's weird with Undead Labs because State of Decay each time was a hit and hits in by their metrics.
It was a commercial success. I forgot. 2 did was like on MPD. I think it was a commercial success. If I remember, I think they won MPD at the time. This was right around the early stages of Game Pass's inception, though. When it was still new. Yeah,
you'd hope that State of Decay 2, with how it's still getting regular updates, you'd hope that game is it's selling somewhere. That's probably an easy candidate to go import with how much content is there. I think that would do well for them. So I don't want to put a question mark on them yet, but I could see one getting put on them pretty fast. Or in an effort to protect my own ass here, if something were to happen to them, I also wouldn't be relatively surprised.
Yeah, fair.
I think the rationale's there. Last question we got here. That was great, Cog. Last question we got here is from Jordan Feldudo, and it's another tough one, but I really think we gotta go into it. We've kind of brought it up multiple times, but he writes, is it time to call for Phil Spencer and Matt's head? And he puts in parentheses, this is rhetorical. Yeah, I know this. It's not a sports world here in the games industry where, like, when your team's sucking, you call for the coach's job. There's no humanism in it. You know, you're a means to an end, get the team to perform or get out. The mentality in gaming is very different. And I get it. It's a cultural thing. It's an entertainment thing. There's passion. There's heart here. There's a little more humanity. At the same time, though, you look at everything that's transpired, and I know there's emotionality and they're high, but you look at the sequence of events dating back, I'd say, the last 5 years. Do you think this is the team to guide Xbox to the next level? Because I could also, at first, it's weird. You look at Xbox One, the series, and you think this is the team to save Xbox. But I think their legacy will be known as the group that killed the brand. You know, you look at the studios they're shutting down, the multi-platform push, the dramatic changes to the business model, what Game Pass has done to their business. We talk about borrowed time and how Phil had that conversation with Satya, and I imagine pitched Game Pass and whatnot and sold him on this vision for subscription service gaming. Maybe it was just borrowed time. But I think the legacy is it went from very positive. I remember when we were first doing Duke together, Cog. Phil, Sarah, Matt, on the up. You know, these were legacy. This was like they were defining their legacy, and there were a couple of things coming up, like how do you handle Bethesda games? How do you handle Activision eventually? Like, and we're seeing the results that they're not up to the task. I feel they're not. I like all of them a lot. You know, we've gotten to know them through all the content they've done. I like their willingness to connect with creators. I think it's a very valuable part of their business, but I can't sit here and pretend that that as a person who maybe people probably don't believe me, but I love Xbox. One of my first systems was the original Xbox. I love the 360. Those feel more and more like this lightning in a bottle kind of moment for the brand, rather than when you look at One and now Series, it's been 2 disasters in a row. And again, I wasn't messing around when I put in the script earlier that I think this is the biggest low they've been in since the beginning of the One generation. I think it's truly that bad, that level of, really not level of, but just no hope in the brand, no feeling of future in the brand. And what's funny is this has happened despite them investing so much. It's dire, in my opinion, in that you may have all the games, but people don't trust you anymore, which is a big part of it. You've never been consistent. The only thing you've been consistent at is being bad, you know? Ooh. Which I know stings a little bit, but that's true. That's the truth, man. So that's where I stand. You know, I mean, with no disrespect, but I think we really got to start thinking about new leaders. I do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm sure they're very nice people and they're very passionate about their jobs and everything like that. But it's just like you're saying, how many times are they allowed to fail? How many mistakes can they make before you got to do something? You were saying Xbox is like one of the worst states it's been since the beginning of the One generation. It's like, you need a shakeup. They're just taking like L after L, it feels like, this company. They need something new. It feels like the vision is all mixed up, that no one's on the same page. We can't have mistakes like people like not knowing what teams are doing, not knowing what Redfall is, not knowing what's going on with all that kind of stuff. I think you just got to get new people in there. It's time, man.
You got them to the table. Satya's there. You got the revenue. And now you pass the baton. I don't know if you continue this, but Cog, I know you've been kind of pro this trio, so I'm curious as to your take on it.
Yeah, I'm probably like the last man. I'm Cog's last stand on Last Stand Media. I'm the only guy. And I get it. Look, in full fairness, everything you guys said is fair. I'm not going to, there's not much I can discount as far as the frustration, what we consider the unforced errors, what we consider communication issues, what we consider, stepping on rakes and so on and so forth. I guess my perspective is this, and I look at it, there's a part of me that does look at it as a sports analogy, because I look at Xbox as a person who's been there from the very beginning. System was on my damn birthday, right? The Xbox, I look at the OG Xbox, and we talked about how, it was just this, they wanted to get in there, and literally the only reason why they got in there is like, we can't have PlayStation dominate this, Sony dominate the living room, right? And the DirectX team came up, and we got the original vision, and they did all those things. But let's fast forward to where we are now. To your point, you could make a valid argument, Matty, that 360 was lightning in the bottle. That's fair. I can't really dispute that. Now, as far as where we are now.
Just to make sure it's clear, I I'm saying it feels like it. I won't say it is yet until
okay. No, fair. That's fair. That's fair. Done. That's cool. I look at 2015 when I guess my first E3, whatever. They had 5 studios. They had Mojang, Coalition. I think they had Rare at the time, Turn 10, and 343. Yeah. Outside of that first year with the Xbox One, it was a complete disaster as far as software and exclusives. There were internal debate as far as should they even invest in this division and Xbox division be shut down. And here's the key point. For me, as a Met fan who's used to being with a struggling franchise who makes stupid decisions sometimes, who, doesn't have this success, Xbox kind of mirrors that. And it's kind of like similar to what your video said, Maddie. And I look at it as this. We can sit there and blame leadership all we want, and that's fair. They should be accountable just as anybody else. But I look at the way Xbox is structured. Xbox is a small division within the scope that is Microsoft. So in my opinion, it doesn't really matter who you bring in, because at the end of the day, they have to value Xbox, the stakeholders, the shareholders. That is ultimately they have to answer. They're not structured in the same way as a Nintendo and a Sony. They're just not. The gaming business is more part of their core business. Microsoft's is not. So there's a part of me that, yes, accountability should always happen. And I get it. If people are like, yo, I'm done, Colin, that's it, I'm done with them. There's not much I can dispute on the way you feel. I guess for me, I still look at it as, okay, what am I here for? I am here for games, right? That's what I'm here for. So if I look at them objectively, even through the failures and all, you got the studios. Since 2023, they've got the games, and I see the vision. So to me, it's like, this is how I look at it. You're right at the cusp of delivering all these things, right? These games need to be quality to me, for me to have confidence in what y'all doing. And that's where we are right now. I just need to see the quality, and I need to see the consistency. So I guess I get it. You know what I'm saying? I just, for me, it's a situation that I just don't think Xbox, because of the way they're structured, similar like a Met fan, we were crying and upset. We had manager in after manager in. My thing is, who are you going to bring in? That's the first thing. Second, we have manager in after manager in. You bring these managers in, they still got to answer to Sachi. They still got to answer to them stakes. That change, it's a structural at the top stakeholder problem. They have to value Xbox. And I guess the only thing that gives me hope is the fact that this group that is gaming sensible for the most part, right? That understands somewhat what gaming. I'm not saying they're perfect because they have made mistakes. I'm not going to sit there and say they haven't. Is at least in there. My fear is if this group goes that has some idea of what the core gamer and what gamers want is gone, and stakeholders are going to have to bring in someone else. Yeah. The people who have no knowledge of games, we're going to ask them to bring them in and say, save that product. The people who are the most money hungry, I just fear that. It's almost as like, are we sure we want that? As a person who's lived and breathed this thing, my thing is, I know people are tired of waiting and wait till next year and all. I get that. All I'm saying is I have games right now. I have an abundance of games right now. My Game Pass is all over the place. I'm just speaking for me as a person who lives and breathes on this platform 24/7. If I get a game, I play it on Xbox as my preferred platform before that. I'll go over to PlayStation for exclusive, Nintendo for exclusive, but I play on Xbox. I see it. I see that it is Japanese games have gotten better. They've not missing out on for the most exclusive. Now, what has happened right now is terrible. I can't justify that. I can't justify closing Tango. I can't. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is, I'm not saying give them another chance. I'm just saying we have to be careful that if we do say it, they say, okay, they're out of here, and we get Don Matrick III or whoever, that energy, and it's like, yo, we don't care about you, and there's no gaming sensibilities, be careful what you wish for. That's all I say, because Microsoft is a different beast. I'm just happy right now that they are at the table where at least last year, gaming surpassed Windows. That was huge to me. The problem now is when gaming surpassed Windows, now the stakeholders, oh, look how much money you're making. Oh, wow, that's great. Gaming, this gaming thing, really? Why is it not exclusive? Why that Tango, how come they didn't make the money that You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel is happening. I feel the wrong people, unfortunately, have now won out based on you can make the argument, the failures of this leadership. You can say that. And they say, okay, we're doing this now from now on. So I just wish I like that there's some pushback in the building to say, yo, bro, you don't understand gaming. What are you doing? Like, you sure this is going to hurt us? I'd rather a fight with that than that guy that like gaming that understands it is gone. Like, I know I'm going to get killed.
How is it working now?
I'm going to get killed.
Your argument's totally fair. I guess now we're seeing the results is that they're just, if it's them, and I think they do mean well, they're being overruled.
Yes, that's what I feel is happening. That's what if I don't have no inside sources. And I get it, call people like pushback will say, hey, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same things, expecting different. That's fair. That's fair. That's all fair. I just want to know who. I just want to, what would be the group then that we bring in? And that's my concern as someone who looks at the way they're structured. I'm very, very concerned. Last point I'll say, I just remember names like Terry Myerson and these people who are Xbox. These are people who are in the board, who are stakeholders, and they would go there and say, why are we still invested in Xbox? What are we doing this gaming thing? We need to get out of here. Just like I said before, I don't want my favorite things to go. and I feel their stakeholders do not care about gaming. They don't have a clue. It's you're a number and you're a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's how they operate.
Sure.
So we'll see. But good points on everyone. I think the writings are fair. And this is just, it's a bad time. It's a bad time.
It's not an easy choice to make, because the reality is there isn't to me, off the top of my head, I can't think of a notable substitution available in the market. There are names, I'm sure if I did a little digging, that could come up, but you make a fair point that you have these actual gamers who are here representing the brand. And I think that's good. But again, when we see the results of their labor and how if they, you could even wind back the clock a ton. It's like if they made better decisions 4 years ago, 5 years ago, leading into the launch of a new system, getting us really ready for that, would we even be in the spot we are in today where we have to question their leadership? I think Xbox can battle to a position where they're like a PlayStation or Nintendo, but what they need is something they've lacked since the 360, and that's reliability. You cannot count on them to consistently be there in a meaningful way each time, and that does come down to leadership. And we've seen the highs and lows of it. We saw with Don Matrick, the lows of it. We saw with Phil Spencer, the highs of it. And now we're kind of seeing with this trio, when shit got tough, the lows of it. I'm not kidding. When I look at like Matt Booty's legacy, I'm like, okay, he worked at Midway. And then you look at his work at Xbox. I know some of it's thankless work that we'll never see behind the scenes. But in all seriousness, this guy, like, you look at their legacy for each of these individuals, and it's like Phil would have the best takeaway, but everyone else attached to him and his team surrounding him, I don't think you see anything that has had a net positive on Xbox long term. Maybe Sarah Bond with Japan. I think that has been a noticeable difference, is that we're getting more third-party Japanese support. But then you see something like Tango, it's like you let your only Japan studio go. Yeah. What sense does that make? Do you just want third-party support? I guess it would make sense if you're moving from this focus of being a platform holder that's producing things like a PlayStation, Nintendo, to like a Valve, where you're a little more lean. You have your marketplace, you have your devices, and you have a few games that come out from your exclusive teams. If you're going in that direction, then chopping a Tango kind of makes sense. I think we could be heading for a position as well where, for the record, I don't think any of these three are going anywhere, but I think we're heading for a position where Xbox will start to see potentially some real growth on the revenue, and it will be almost a Jim Ryan kind of feeling of like that icky do good feeling where it's like, yeah, you guys are doing good now, huh? That kind of feeling.
Right.
And that'll kind of suck that it's, because I, as someone who's a PlayStation fan, like as well, it was tough to cheer for him this generation, because I'm just like, I don't like the leadership here. And so I get it. There's no easy answer to a lot of this stuff. Is what the ultimate So the ultimate end of all of this is, but tough decisions are going to have to be made one way or another. And I mean, we're certainly going through one of those now.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I say no for now, last point, I have to look at also as there are let's look at Matt Booty, for example, right? He's the surveyor of what I consider the draft class of 2018, so to speak, of the studios that were acquired and stuff like that. So the way I look at it, and this is just my thinking, is like the Fables, the Hellblades, the Perfect Darks, all the games that are under that regime of acquisition, I need to know what the quality bar is, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if these games come out in Redfall type situations, if they come out with complete mismanagement and just low quality games, mm-hmm. Absolutely, because that's under your watch as far as the quality. So I think, to me, that's when I guess some people may say, "God, when will it affect you?" I think that's what it would take. It would take consistent low quality releases for me to go, okay, you don't know what you're doing. And I get it. I look back outside of Redfall, which is a disaster. I still look at Starfield, a game I love. I look at, Forza came out. I'm not the biggest Forza guy, but, quality game. I look at a Minecraft. Okay, now we have I think what's made it worse is we've had such a gap in this first half with no Towerborn. And let's be honest, Power World was really this surprise thing. From January to this, and all we had is business update, awful news, break. And I think that has compounded this issue, and unfortunately now puts Hellblade in a situation Starfield was in last year, where it's all this pressure now on Hellblade to be great.
Which is a way worse decision.
Hellblade's not a mass appeal game either. So
right.
They're going to have problems. Sorry, how long has Matt Booty been at Xbox?
That's a good question. Wow. I remember him since
like 10 years.
I'm searching it right now.
Yeah,
but
check. I can't remember. He was there around the time when Obsidian got acquired. I remember him being him at XO. So I know he's there that long.
What?
I don't know how long the tenure is.
I almost got it here.
Well, Cog, I think the idea that you were talking about earlier, like of this trio, maybe Phil, like protecting Xbox gamers, and you're worried about if he's gone, we might get someone who doesn't share that same passion. I think that's totally fair. Mm-hmm. What if you just got rid of like Matt Booty, but Phil is still there? Right. Would you be more open to that?
I would only consider something like that is if, like I said prior, if these games under that 2018 banner that remember when they were on stage and they said, we have this, we have Playground, we have Compulsion. If all of the majority of those games are low quality.
Been there for 8 years.
8 years. No, that's fair. That's fair. And
actually, since 2014, my apologies.
Oh, 2014, he's been there.
It's GM, Redmond Game Studios and platforms at Microsoft, and then he moved into Xbox
when he went to
July 2015. Corporate vice president at Microsoft Studios.
Okay, fair. I just want to see the quality of those games, and because that to me is his tenor. That's his run, right? So
it's just weird because he's been there for 9 years or whatever, and I know games take a long time, but it just seems like they're in a really bad spot and they're not getting the excitement they need from people. Like outside of like the diehard Xboxes, I don't see that many people super hyped about a lot of their stuff, which is fair or not fair, depending how you look at it. But they're just not, and like financially, things aren't adding up. They're not doing as well as they should be. So it's just like, I don't know how long they're going to give these people how much rope they got left, but I hope they turn around. And I think, Cog, like you said, when the class of 2018, like we start seeing the real fruits of that labor that could turn around. But at the same time, that was a while ago also.
That's a long time. Yeah, no, you're right. Anybody who comes at me and says, God, nope, I'm good. These dudes, we gave them time. It's 8 joints. I can't defend, right? I can't fight those people. I can't say, and I think it's fair. I just wanted to give the other side.
I think that's really important, Cog, and it's good to hear that.
I think the problem is, not to push it too hard here, but the problem is for me with these three is the strategy has failed, is what I'm taking away from this. It's like Game Pass isn't doing it. Like this is this thing that you and I, Kyle, are like staunch believers in. We have a whole segment in our show based around it. We always say that free 99, but more importantly, we always said extract that value while it's still around because we never know what would happen to it. But I think you're seeing Game Pass isn't doing it. hardware isn't selling, which we've continuously covered on this show. You have oversights like Redfall, which maybe you put in like a little bottle, but you combine that with the waits on exclusives since all those acquisitions in 2018 and 19.
Mm-hmm.
And, the delays can or can't be out of their hands to one extreme or the other. I do think certain games, like, it's hard to, I don't know what was going on day in, day out in Ninja Theory, but it's hard to give a game like Hellblade 2 a pass for being that short and taking as long as it is. And I get the perfectionism of that team. It's one of the reasons I respect them. But at the same time, I'm like, Xbox should have probably been in there being like, yo, clock's running. It's been 4 years and you're still not ready. You need 6 for this. How I view it is like they deployed a strategy and it's worked out so poorly that they have now dramatically shifted the business and shut down 4 teams because of it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I've lost my faith in them. I would love to continue to believe in them and cheer for them. But I just can't have any faith in their leadership right now.
I completely understand where you're coming from. Everything you said has a lot of validity and a lot of weight. And I understand studios get shut down. That is something that is devastating and it's really hard to stomach. I guess last whole point is it's interesting because on one hand, it's like, this, there needs to be a major shakeup. And I get that. I totally understand that. But again, I just want to see what these games do. I clearly, that's all I'm here for games. And I'm a guy that I've seen I guess to your point, Maddie, this is what it is. I got my thought now.
Sure.
As far as a Sega kid, right? As someone who's seen a company that I love that created consoles, then transition to third party, like
sure,
the consoles go away, right?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like, well, maybe this is the transition eventually to, if it is like third party or whatever, they don't want to get out of the console business. I guess what gives me hope is that they're still, for now, we'll see, saying that they still want to make consoles, right? And I think that, and I've never seen this timeline where you're putting games on other things, but you're still making a console. I just want to know what this future is. That's me. That's where part of it, my whole journey with Xbox is kind of thing. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at. But if people are like, no, this ain't it for me, I'm good. I get it. For me, all I care about is the games. That's just it.
Totally. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, on this subject? Anything?
Just sad news all around.
Yeah.
No one's happy. It sucks.
It definitely does.
Alas, but hopefully things will turn around. That's all you can hope for.
Hopefully, yeah. Shout out to The Verge and Bloomberg for their timely drops on articles that otherwise would have left our conversation dead in the water. Woo. Got lucky catching those.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, with that, then we move on to our Game Pass pick of the week. Brad, as our guest, you have the selection, but we have a write-in real quick. I just want to throw out there from Mr. Scott, if you're nasty. He says, Duke boys, this is going to be a brutal and down week for you with the studio closure news. So I wanted to write in and say your recommendation of Evil West a couple of weeks ago was spot on. What a fun game. It's like a combination of Doom and God of War, but double A. Can't be happier with you're pushing me toward this game. Love you, gents. Have a hold the line only to have your overrated generals shoot you in the back kind of day.
Damn.
Jeez.
All right, Brad.
Yes.
Interesting selection this week, sir. Let us hear about this game.
Yeah, man. Another Crab's Treasure. You guys know I love the Souls-like genre. Big fan. This is and I'm always into weird, goofy ideas in games. This is a Souls-like where you're a crab. And you go around, you get new shells like armor and all that stuff. I have not yet played it, but I've heard very good things about this from people I trust about Souls-like. And everyone's just saying, yeah, it's a cool game. And I saw this is on Game Pass. I was like, that's the kind of wins I like in Game Pass. Just a sweet little game that's going under the radar like that. It looks awesome. I'm really looking forward to play it, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. So check that game out.
So this is like a crab Souls-like game. Did I hear you right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Love it.
How difficult is it?
I think there is some, I don't know base, but I believe there is some stuff in the game to make it easier that you could equip for your crab.
Oh my God. That's too good.
That's hilarious.
I heard about this game and I didn't know it was a Souls-like until my friend who's been on a big Souls-like binge, he texted me and he said like another Crab's Treasure with like the soon emoji.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what do you? I was like, why are you into this game, dude? And then I see it's an actual Souls like.
Yeah.
Unbelievable that this is a game that exists.
Everyone calls it Crab Souls.
That's amazing. I kind of want to try the game because of that.
What a weird, stupid, goofy idea. I love that.
Yeah, whoever came up
hilarious.
with this, man.
The artwork is funny too.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I kind of want to try it because of that. That's a great suggestion. Awesome. All right, we have our final question of the show. We're looking ahead, gentlemen. Nicholas Brillhart writes, "Greetings, Cog and Maddie." Brad, I'm sorry, I forgot to announce.
Oh no, it's all good. Yeah.
So we have a date for the summer showcase of Xbox. What single thing needs to be there? Have a, I guess PlayStation players didn't buy enough copies of Hi-Fi Rush kind of day.
Oh,
damn, it's too soon, bro.
That's too soon.
Our audience is just so sharp, man. I'm just reading their write-ins. That's all.
They're clever.
Yeah, so I figured to wrap things up, the smartest thing for us to do would be, as always, to look ahead. We've looked ahead with studio closures. We've looked ahead in these doomer ways, but we have this showcase as we record this a month and a day away. So what can Xbox do, if anything, to excite you? And I know for some people this is an eye-rolling conversation, but I think it's a fun mental challenge. Like, maybe not outright outrageous hype of like, oh, I'm out of my seat. But what would give you a level of, hey, man, I'm looking forward to that? What's something you want to see out of this company? I know the expectations, as they did last year, by the way, when Redfall released and it was such a catastrophe in May and the showcase was coming up, it's like, oh, here we go. Xbox put on what I think was their best ever showcase last year. So maybe they have some stuff up their sleeve this year. I'm expecting a little bit more of a normie show between Gears and COD. I'm a little concerned on that front.
Retro show.
Yeah. I am a little worried that it may not be matte coated like it was last year, but I'm going to keep an open mind. But Brad, what could Xbox bring to the table for you in this showcase to kind of excite you?
I'll give you reasonable expectations and stuff I just want that I don't think is going to happen.
All right. Let's do it.
I'm really, really, really curious about Fable. I want to see this game. I want to see uncut gameplay for a bit. I want to see this world. I need to be blown away by this game. The developer, very talented. I think it's very exciting that they're working on this game, and I'm really looking forward to seeing their approach. Hopefully we get a date for this game because it's been another one that's been around for a long time and we don't know much about it. So let's get that out there, please. For the love of God, please do something with Banjo. Please, man. Not nuts and bolts. Give me like a proper Banjo Kazooie game. Please. Like, I don't care if it's Double Fine. I don't care who the hell's making it. I don't care if it's not Rare. Just please, man. Bring the bear back. He's a beloved character. You don't really got 3D platformers going on. Psychonauts is on cooldown for a while. Yeah. Let's get that guy out there. Let's get a little variety. You guys are talking about that variety like from Xbox? Not the hashtag just one. Let's get some more out there.
Fair.
Let's get some more out there. And I think it'd be really cool to see, I don't know if this is going to happen, but just like a surprise Japanese exclusive game or something. Like, yo, we got this. Like,
they had that in development.
It was called Scalebound. And also, I need like a new Scalebound that actually comes out or something. Do you know what I mean? We're working with Platinum or something like that. I don't know. Like, Kamiya's gone, but I don't know. We need something like that, man, to get me excited.
Yeah, something like that. Square Enix seems like a potential target for that just because of that new partnership. That's something.
Target. I think that partnership's not going to bring anything new for them. Exclusive, I should say.
Yeah.
I think they'll get some of the stuff, but they won't get anything beyond that.
Yeah, I think if anything happens, it might be through them, but I think those days of chasing the golden goose in Japan are...
Yeah, I think those days are over.
Yeah. Such a shame. The 360 had such sick JRPG exclusives.
That's why I bought mine, Maddie. I bought one for Tales of Vesperia. Yeah. I was like, okay, that was my first Xbox. I was like, all right, that's what I needed. Just need a push like that.
Dude, Lost Odyssey, Infinite Undiscovery, Operation Darkness. Like, they had some fucking sick JRPGs,
man. They went in.
Yeah. And I get it. They were the lead platform. So like PlayStation, they just had people who were like, well, more people have this, so let's go like make it. But nowadays it's such a foreign sight to be like, oh, Japanese role-playing game on Xbox. Have they had a JRPG exclusive in 2 generations? I don't think so. Like
I don't think so.
Exclusive.
They've had stuff in Game Pass, right? They had like Aiden Chronicles. They had Lies of P, which is a Korean game, but still like, had a little bit of that Souls like JRPG.
But they haven't had anything I couldn't buy on like PlayStation or whatever.
Right.
Cog, what about you? What's going to get the man, the myth, the legend up out of his seat, cheering for his home team?
What's got me cheering for the Mets again?
Yeah. What big signing could they make this off season for you?
I think right now, even Mill Acquisition says right now, I don't know if signing right now. You want to do that right now. The climate. Read the room, Xbox. No, look,
Yo, imagine that real quick. Just imagine, like, we wake up and then tomorrow and they're like,
yo, we
acquired Square Enix. We're excited to add them to the fold. Like,
that would be an interesting headline.
I'd be so afraid if that happened.
Same, bro.
Terrified.
Fair enough. Can't push back on that at all. Obviously, the rumors of Gears. I want to see what the next iteration of that. Man, to me, it's just more about the guys that I feel have the most potential that we have not heard about. And I look at Double Fine. I look at NXL, who I think is just, man, they're so talented.
Yeah.
Brian Fargo and those guys. And obviously we got Clockwork Revolution to reveal, maybe too early to see, but I'm curious if any other studios also have multiple projects that they're working on. I'm also curious because of all of this shift and prioritization of big titles. Maybe you decide to now give us some announcement about a Fallout game.
Is it JPEG time?
Is it? Let me not say because you're going to get mad. I don't want the Roman to do this. But some announcement that either, because now the sad reality of that leak that we knew, which had Dishonored on it, had Ghostwire Tokyo 2 on it.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, man.
We know that. So that's done now. That part. That's sad. But also on that list, I believe, was the Fallout 3 remaster, Oblivion remaster, excuse me.
Oblivion remake, Fallout 3 remaster.
Right. So what I'm hoping is, Bethesda, the remaining, surprise us with that. Hopefully we get a little bit more look at, I guess the question for you, Maddie, is I know you're very down on Avowed coming out this year, but I guess my question to you is, do you think that Avowed will be shown again, being that it's this year's title, allegedly?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This news does kind of change my perspective on it. I can see a lot of send it out and just get it over with type energy from Xbox this year, where this game may not be ready technically, but it might come out anyway. And I'm not saying that to protect myself from being wrong.
Right.
But I think it will make a presence felt at the showcase.
Right.
I think we get a date. I don't know if we get a 2025 date or, Tom Warren's saying November is what they're going for. So I think they're going to announce November and maybe they delay it closer to that release. But they have so much coming out this holiday season, at least, where I think they could afford the delay. We'll see how that all goes.
Yeah, they've done that before. They release games like a month apart from each other or something like that, where they don't let them breathe. And I think you should let this
game have a turn for that Kai doesn't like. Last year.
No, I don't like it. Just I know how passionate you are about it. It's truth to it. I just funny because I know when it's coming.
Blast.
Yeah, you got to let that game breathe. Like, let indie have its moment, I guess, to shine. Because it's a big IP and everything like that. That could be a huge hit for them.
Yeah. I don't think sandwiching Avowed between Call of Duty,
that's
the first big Call of Duty, and Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I think they're fine for the holiday. I think,
like you remove Avowed, you're good. Especially because they have Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is kind of this more,
and you got Shutter Space.
Yeah, you got Shutter Space. Like, you got something every month, even if you delay Avowed or any one of these games. I feel like you'd still be all right. So I do hope that some dates shift, because everyone knows how I feel about the shotgun blast. And look, man, it's not just me. Brad Ellis says it too.
He said it too.
Give it time to wait.
I think for me also is I would love to see new IPs, whether it be through global Xbox Global Publishing, and even some of the projects that we've heard about, like the Wu-Tang game, and the Project Dragon, what's going on with Contraband. And I'll be honest, I'm probably the lone person. I'm excited for the AVK acquisition for one thing. I want to see the infusion of these games, also backward compatibility, and again with my bet on it being in Game Pass. Like, I want to see. What I want to learn from them is how if marketing has changed, if it's the same status quo as it is, and that's it, or is it truly now that you have acquired, you did all of this, you sacrificed all these things, you did all these court cases. Are you going to put this thing front and center? And the hardcore gamer in me is not a Call of Duty guy anymore, but I will say it is intriguing to me what happens, and I also the other Blizzard properties and things of that nature. because it's supposed to be about them now. Like they're part of the family, right? So I want to see how much that integration takes place. And the last part will probably be, like I said, State of Decay 3, man. We gotta know what's going on with you. Like we gotta get an update, on that. So we'll see. I'm still bullish with them despite all the horrible news this today and this week and stuff. I'm still bullish on their second half. I haven't swayed from that. I think their second half is tremendous. I think it's a layup for them. It's just a matter of the execution, and we know sometimes the execution. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it.
I think for me, it's a couple of things. I'll get the obvious one out of the way. Fallout. A Fallout 3 remaster is I'm asking for the bare minimum here. I feel pretty confident it's got to be on the way, and that would definitely give me something to be excited about. I think that'll be multi-platform, but that would just be like, all right, cool, like good. You guys are making use of this thing that you bought years ago. Like this is what we were hoping for.
Feels like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, especially with it on the FTC documents like that, and an Oblivion remake. Like, dude, you're speaking perfectly with my sensibilities. Like that, nice. those two being leaked, I that would make me extremely excited. But I'm always very interested in what Bethesda Game Studios is doing. So that's the obvious one. I'm with Brad on Fable. I think some real strong answers on Fable and really giving it a extensive showing would be great. I'm still of the mindset that it may skip this year and get it may be next year's developer direct target. I think that would make the most sense. Like if you're talking about games you build around, I think that's a holiday title next year that they just put a shit ton of attention.
We lost Brad.
Yeah.
We lost. How long ago did they announce that game, dude? It's like I don't like waiting. Like man, how long are we supposed to wait? Like
we first heard about it from I think Eurogamer in like 2017 or 18. This thing's been kicking around for a while. And then they announced it in 2020 because I remember it was during a pandemic showcase.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry. I just say I totally get games take a long time to make, but it's like, man, how long are you expecting me to remain excited about your game or something? Announcement
timing is everything. Right. And so I want to see Fable. That would be huge for me to get a good extensive look at it. But I'm feeling that is like, if that comes earlier than the first half of next year, I'll be surprised in a good way. But I do think that's next year's developer direct target, so I'm a little less bullish on that. I'd love to get a Gears collection. As you know, I'm targeting some easy wins here, but I think the Gears collection would be great. We've been asking for this for a while. You want to bring Gears to more people. This is a great way to do so. It deserves the same respect Halo has. I think for as important as Halo was with the original Xbox, I think Gears was, especially for the 360. And, the Coalition did an amazing job carrying the torch in the Xbox One generation. So I feel like just having an all-in-one Gears collection would be really good for that franchise. And that's been rumored for so long that someone at Xbox had to have sniffed it out by this point, at least thought about doing it. So that would be another one. I think, some JRPG attention always goes a long way with me. I think I'd like to see some fruit bore from this Square Enix partnership. That would go a bit of a distance for me, and just like seeing, okay, you guys renewed your vows publicly on stage.
Little Final Fantasy 16.
I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you want to see from them?
What would you want to see?
I mean, my head immediately goes to 7, but I think that ship has sailed.
Oh, so, I think that ship sailed till
I think maybe 16. Out. 16 feels like it's in this kind of nebulous area where you bring it to PC. You kind of originally said that it didn't hit targets. Square's hemorrhaging money, it seems, and canceling projects. Like I feel like it makes a lot of sense for Square if they can make it happen to just bring this thing to as many platforms as possible. Yeah, the same applies for even 7, but I don't know. I think 7 they're definitely more tied up by PlayStation in that regard.
I just wonder. I feel like if 16 doesn't get the Game Pass bag, kind of a problem. I don't know how well it's going to sell on there.
Yeah, no, and that goes back to our problem at the top of this whole show, right? Otherwise, it's really tough to think of.
That's your friends at Atlas.
I mean, they got Metaphor already. They had that showcase. True. Yeah, Metaphor is already showing its hand, and I will be there, man. That shit looks amazing.
Oh yeah, day one.
Yeah,
what I was going to say is we do know. I mean, even though it might be a little early.
Persona 6.
Persona 6 has a green colored background.
Yeah. Whoa, that would be great. That would be great. I think that's next year. I do.
Okay, you think we'd? Okay,
I think next year, just because you can't undercut Metaphor.
No.
That's from the Persona team.
Not even an announcement that, hey, we're working on the new Persona. Still too early to announce that.
Atlas will do it in some weird, dumb way, like they announce all their games. Here's a piece of concept art or something.
Yeah,
I defer to you guys on that.
Yeah, like what did they do for 5, Brad? It was like the chair with the handcuffs.
The chairs, yeah. That's how they did it. Yeah. It's just like, all right,
cool. Yeah, so what did they do? That like was a
picture with
it was a picture.
Yeah, it was just a picture on like social media.
Like Break Your Heart, and it was a chair with like a
chains
weight
and
around
handcuffs around it.
Okay.
And it was like, it took years for that game to come out from when they showed that. A long time.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So yeah, Xbox has a steep hill to climb here. But the expectations are firmly set low. So
question. Do you guys think we'll see a Series X revision?
Oh, hey, I'm glad you brought that up. Sarah Bond, if we were to believe her, did say that there was hardware coming this year.
Oh, there's the leak one. Is it going to be the all digital one?
Could be the all digital Series X.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm hoping it would be nice to get a handheld. That would be a shot in the arm.
That'd be sick.
If you want to talk about something that would make me go like, all right, bring it in.
Get the smile back.
You want Maddie around for the next 6 months, just talking Xbox and having some optimism here. Give me a handheld, and we'll
little Series S spec handheld.
Yeah. Give me the X Boy.
Game Pass.
Give me the X Boy.
Non-streaming only kind of thing. Yeah. The X Boy, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but guys, I don't know if they announced a new version of Series X and they're like, and it's discless. And that's it. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, this could be one of those showcases too, where they just reaffirm all of the things we were afraid of, right?
Yeah, because they're not going to do a mid-gen refresh, right?
No, they definitely didn't. Yeah, they've kind of alluded that they're not doing that. The only thing that would get me excited about a Series X digital is if it had a Call of Duty brand and it's not a sleeve.
Yeah, the rap guy. The rap guy should be part of those layoffs.
Say that again, Brad. Say that again.
I hate the sleeves. I hate those. Yeah. I remember talking shit on the sleeves when I was at Easy Allies, and they were like, "What's wrong with the sleeve?" I was like, "I don't want some fabric on my console."
Again,
I have the Starfield one on mine, but it's definitely one of those things where I'm kind of coping. I'm like,
it's cool, but you look at it and you're like, well, this is kind of scuffed and low budget, It's like they had that awesome Halo console, and that was it.
Yeah,
it was so cool because it made a different sound when you turned it on too.
Oh yeah,
what are you doing?
What's going on? Why don't you get the Nick All-Star Brawl 2 one?
Oh my God, I forgot that exists. Guys, how do you do this podcast, man? What is going on?
Well, the problem we have every week.
We always got stuff to talk about.
They need a Gears one then, if they're doing Gears. They need a Gears Xbox. So they had them in the past. And
the rap guy is going to shut that down. He's going to be like, look, we can't do that because we already did that for the Xbox One. We did it with the 1S. They did the whole red Series X with the claw marks on it and made a screeching sound whenever you shut it off.
I love this.
Shit was fire. But yeah, rap guy is going to push against that for sure if he didn't get laid off already. So,
oh no, man.
So we'll see where Xbox ends up with it all. But I think, a Fallout console would be pretty smart. I think if you're going to,
yes, of course it would be with the synergy going on with the show.
I just
people are into Fallout right now again. So strike,
dude. There are people who collect Switches, which, by the way, I say with all due respect, if you're listening, you do that. I don't understand you. I don't get why y'all are walking around collecting Switch lights. You're like, oh, this one's the Animal Crossing one. It's the same thing with the DSs, but Xbox, you have failed to create that novelty with your systems, and you would be wise to lean into your IP to do so.
They got me to buy the Zelda Switch. I was like, well, I gotta buy that.
You already got one, right?
Yeah,
but were you upgrading from the LCD to OLED? Like, was that what was happening?
Don't judge me, okay? Listen up. I had the normal Switch, the original. Then I bought the OLED.
Yeah.
Because I was like, all right, cool.
Same. Okay, we're here.
But then they were like, well, now we're doing a Zelda one. And I was just like, you motherfuckers. I missed out on every Zelda console. I never had when they had the Wii U one. I never had when I was mad. I was like, fuck. Zelda is very, one of my top franchises. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not getting left in the dark this time. I'm going to get it before. Because I know Nintendo hardware, they retain their value. And they just go up in price. And if I ever want one in the future, it's going to be a lot of money.
I wanted the Pokemon 3DS. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd kicked myself for not buying those 3DSs they had.
I have. Yeah, it's so funny you say that, Brad. Zelda to me is not a bad IP by any stretch, but it's not one of my favorites from Nintendo. Like it has.
I can't believe you even said it's not a bad IP. Like I can't believe you.
I just want to make sure people know I'm not suggesting it's bad, but More so that I own the new 3DS, that like golden one. That's a Zelda one. I own that, and it's what I used to play because it was available at the time when I bought a 3DS. I was like, I'll just get the Zelda one, and that was the most normie thing I think I've done in my life. Like, I'll just get this collector's one. Why not? And I wish so hard I went and got like the Pokeball one that's like split in half and has like the red and white. That one was sick. There's so many cool ones that so Brad, if you're ever interested in it, I happily hand it off to you, sir.
Yes, I am interested. I was like to say, you don't deserve that. You sound like you don't even care about it.
Yeah, I need to replace this piece of shit. So
yes, I will take that.
Sold.
I will buy that.
All right. Well, Brad, thank you for joining us here as we wrap this up. Yeah, of course,
man. Thanks for letting me vent.
Yeah, no.
Had to get that off my chest.
Always welcome, man. Thank you.
This therapy, brother. We needed it.
Cog. Dude, as always, a blast doing this with you. You know, just going through these tough times together. So, we'll hang in there.
You guys have been through it.
we'll be back.
Like, hey, man, you guys, it's like war victims.
Yeah, I know, right?
Survivors.
Having a crisis every week.
You guys are tough, man.
I feel like I cursed the brand because ever since I said, there's never an easy week covering Xbox, they're like, bet. They just did everything we've never expected.
Oh, yeah, another time. Oh man, what a week. What a week, man. So many emotions.
Yeah, we got to do our hashtag. I say we dedicate this one to Brad. I would like a little DD Brad.
All right,
let's do it. So if you got this far into the episode, you want to leave a hashtag and let us know your thoughts on the episode, confirming you got this far. Use the hashtag DD Brad. Shout out to my man Brad here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead, celebrate Brad. You can go ahead and put that in the comments down below or tag us on Twitter. I'm at GT7Status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. Brad, what's your at?
Bradley Ellis 87.
There you go. Go find my man over there. Tag us with your thoughts on the show. Again, hashtag DD Brad. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week. Show's not going anywhere. Don't worry. As long as Xbox is around.
We're not shuttered yet.
Yeah, we're not shuttered yet. Although we are, as the reports say from The Verge, we are a little bit worried internally what is going to transpire with our podcast brand moving forward. I kid. We will be back next week. We'll talk about whatever's happening, and we'll see you then. All right. Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.